Perfect. Then I'm going to ask anyone present in Carson City to step forward and state your name for the record if you wish to make public comment. There appearing to be no one in Carson City wishing to make public comment. How about here in Las Vegas? There's no one present here in Las Vegas to make public comment, so that will close our public comment section. Excuse me. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's disposition.
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Commission disposition for October 2024.
I believe each of us has had the opportunity to review the disposition. If there are no questions, I think it is in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the prior month's disposition.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Madam Secretary, please read in the restricted consent items.
Your items on the restricted consent agenda this morning are items 9 through 12. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
All right, if any of my fellow commissioners have any questions or comments, if not, I believe it's in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted consent items 9 through 12 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you. That brings us to the non-restricted items held out for discussion. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 1?
Non-restricted number 1 are the applications of JJVG Vote Co. LLC for registration as a holding company and for finding of suitability as a member and sole manager of JJVG Topco LLC. It is also the applications of JJVG Topco LLC for registration as a private investment company, for finding of suitability as a member of JJVG Holdings LLC, and for a waiver of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 15C.010, subsection 1, subsection A, as noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of Effingham GP LLC for registration as a holding company and for finding of suitability as general partner of Jansen Family Limited Partnership. It is also the applications of Jansen Family Limited Partnership for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as a member of JJVG Holdings LLC. You also have the applications of JJVG Holdings Inc., JJVG Intermediate 1 LLC, JJVG Intermediate 2 LLC, JJVG Intermediate 3 LLC, and JJVG Nevada Holdings LLC for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as sole member and or manager as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of JJVG Intermediate 3 LLC to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of JJVG Nevada Holdings LLC and J&J Ventures Gaming of Nevada LLC for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda and to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Golden Route Operations LLC and Sartini Gaming LLC to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of David Quick, Jordan Cruz, Matthew Wilson, Robert Willenborg, Jeffrey Pryor, Harold Jansen, John Conley IV, Edward Farrell Jr., and Kay Hansen for finding of suitability as a member, manager, key executive, and or limited partner as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Okerberg. I am Nevada Gaming Counsel to Oak Tree and to J&J Nevada. Here with me today, I have David Quick, the Managing Director of Oak Tree Special Situations Fund, Bob Willenborg, the CEO of J&J, Jeff Pryor, the COO, Ed Farrell, the CFO, Matt Hortenstein, the General Counsel, and Jamal Goodrich, who is the General Counsel and Compliance Officer for J&J Nevada. We also would like to note that we have on Zoom 2 of the applicants, Kay Jansen and Jack Jansen, and we thank the Commission for allowing them to appear via Zoom. And also, we thank the commission for waiving the appearances of Matt Wilson and Jordan Cruz, both of whom have appeared before the board and commission several times and had no areas of concern or issues in their applications. We have distributed a slide deck, which we ask to be treated as confidential and not be made part of the public record. We know that the commissioners have had an opportunity to either review the transcript or to watch the board meeting, where we gave an affirmative presentation that covered the comprehensive elements, including the reason for the transactions, the regulatory structure, and the guidance for the applications, as well as an overview of the history of J&J, the finances, the business approach, and the litigation and regulatory matters. Based on that, if it's acceptable to the commission, what we would like to do is be available for any questions that you might have on that. And then we would ask each of the first-time applicants to come up and tell you a little bit about themselves.
Yes, thank you. That works for me. What I would ask is to start, as I mentioned previously, my intention is to start in Carson City with the commissioners to ask any questions, and then we can come to the south.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We miss you up here. We were very excited to gather in the lovely north, but Mother Nature's made it hard, and we apologize, and we miss you. Good morning, Ms. Ogerberg and folks in the room. And many of you did make it from Las Vegas, but I think you came in yesterday, so good on you. At first glance, and I think I'm going to channel Judge Assad. It's incredibly complex. It's hefty. It's a lot of paper, but at the end of reading and certainly listening to the detailed presentation you gave to the Gaming Control Board, it all makes great sense. So I might have some questions for the individual applicants on here, but from a corporate request, I understand it and appreciate it. And at this time, I don't have further questions.
Thank you.
I also didn't have any questions regarding the organizational structure. The materials you provided were very helpful and added to that with the explanations that you gave at the board. It cleared up any questions I had in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, I would ask if Commissioners Marcantonis or Silver have any questions.
Certainly I can comment, if I may, Chair. To continue with protocol, I say, Mr. Commissioner Prelicki, we miss you all too. Now, having said that, the Nevada Gaming Control Board presentations were excellent. I echo everybody else's sentiments. I did have a question, perhaps for Mr. Quick, and perhaps something that we don't want to go too much into, but I was really fascinated about the comments with regard to the potential improvements at the Casablanca. And I was wondering if there were any guidelines or anything they could share with us publicly about what some of those plans might be. I mean, I think it's a great thing for the casino resort. But if you can, Mr. Quick, good morning, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners, for having us. David Quick, last name Q-U-I-C-K for the record. Yeah, look, we've owned Mesquite for roughly a year. We focused first on some improvements to the floor of the property. We are actually, today is the day that a model new room is available. We're looking at renovating the rooms at the Casablanca. We think it'll be an exciting development for the community, for all the people that travel through on that very busy freeway outside of it. We're very excited to put new food and beverage options into it, and just really we're investing all of our free cash flow that we generate in the business back into the properties, because we think there's a tremendous upside for growing the business, growing the properties over time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quick.
Commissioner Silver, any questions or comments?
No, I think that, thank you, Chair. The Gaming Control Board's presentation was extremely thorough, and the PowerPoint presentation as well. And I'm satisfied as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ms. Ogerberg, if you want to bring forward your individual clients.
Wonderful. Yes, I'd be happy to. I'd like to start with Mr. Willenborg.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Robert Willenborg. I'm the CEO, one of the founding owners. My fellow owners are back in our hometown of Effingham, Illinois, and thank you again for allowing them to join us via Zoom. We started on this journey in J&J Ventures Gaming 12 years ago with 12 people, and now, we're almost 1,300 employees nationwide. We have a very balanced and I would call it a team, but it's almost a family that runs this company. And, I can't say any more than how proud I am of, what we've done and what we continue to try to do, not only in Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Nebraska, but also in Montana and especially Nevada. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners Krolicki and Solus Rainey?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We were looking at each other to see who would go first. Mr. Willenberg, thank you for being with us today. What a great story you all have to go from a founding member, what you said 12 years ago, to 1,300 employees today. It's just been a marvelous journey, and what a impressive gaming piece of our puzzle in Nevada you're bringing. So, good on you. Your CV is exquisite. I have no issues. It's just a pleasure to see you. I know getting here wasn't easy, but you never know if we have questions other commissioners might have. But I appreciate you being in front of us today and appreciate what you're doing here. And your company's done an exquisite job in doing what it needs to do. And I know the Gaming Control Board talked about the compliance issues and other, in a good way. Your abilities to address all those matters and just have such a impeccable record, coming in front of us today with, again, a very hefty request and paperwork, but it all makes sense, understood, tax reason, those kind of things. So again, I'm fully supportive of the application as a whole, and certainly you.
Thank you very much.
I echo the sentiments. Welcome and thank you for being here. Your application was very straightforward, and I didn't have any concerns with regards to it. I did have just one question with regards to the litigation that was taking place in St. Clair, Illinois. I understood that was dismissed in 2017 with 1 year to reinstate it. That hasn't been reinstated, correct? It was Marty Hubbard versus CSJR Development.
Yeah, that was dismissed. Yeah.
Okay, so because it was dismissed without prejudice with 1 year to reinstate, did it become a dismissal with prejudice after the 1 year? Okay.
Yes, it did.
That's what I assumed, but I just wanted to make
Thank
sure
you.
that I was clear on that for the record. Thank you. I didn't have any questions either. I echo the compliments on all you've accomplished over the last 12 years, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Commissioners Silver and Marcantonis?
Thank you, Chair. It was really inspiring to hear the story of your beginnings in Illinois and watching your father as well as an accountant, and you going into it and getting your CPA, and how you've just taken this organization to a whole nother level. I have no concerns. You're licensed in so many states, chairman of the board of the bank. So I'm more than happy to support your application.
Thank you.
As am I, Mr. Willenberg. Congratulations for what you've all achieved since the beginning. Well done.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here today. I have no additional questions, and so we do appreciate your appearance and getting direct conversation with you. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to ask Mr. Pryor to come up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Pryor. I am the CEO of J&J Ventures. I've been with J&J Ventures almost 30 years. Started out as a basically vending technician for the company whenever I started. So was able to work my way up through the organization over the years to come to the CEO role. So very appreciative to be in front of you guys today.
Thank you.
Mr. Pryor, good morning. Welcome to Carson City. Um, Again, it's always a pleasure to see people who've, I mean, there are different ways to be, marvelously qualified for the various jobs and COO in your case, but there's something organic, being there for 30 years and doing it the hard way. It's just always, impressive, and a lot of elbow grease and a lot of support, and how it all works. So you're just impeccably qualified, perfectly comfortable, and excited to support your application today.
I also, I echo the congratulations. I mean, you're a great success story, and I'm sure an inspiration to people that, with hard work, you can accomplish a lot. I always really enjoyed seeing people in the industry when they started out as sometimes high school students and moved their way up to much loftier positions, but nonetheless, it was all due to hard work, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being here before us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marcantonis?
Commissioner Solis's Ramey's word, inspirational, absolutely true. I hope you get the opportunity, so to speak, at colleges or high schools or wherever, because your story is a remarkable one. And 30 years is a big investment into something that you believe in and in a company. I will have no hesitation in supporting your application today. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
Commissioner Silver?
Thank you, Chair. I just echo all the comments of my fellow commissioners. Working your way up from a technician to a CEO position with 14 people that you're supervising now and being licensed already in so many other jurisdictions. I'm just happy as well to support your application. So thank you again for coming here.
Sir, I don't have any additional questions or comments. I think it's all been said. And I also will be supporting your application. And so we appreciate you being here and getting the opportunity to speak to you personally or, via video. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And now I would like to ask Mr. Farrell to come up.
Thank you. I'm Ed Farrell. I'm the new guy with J&J. I've been here for a little less than 3 years. But I'm also I consider myself a native Nevadan, even though I moved here when I was 13 years old. I moved to Vegas. Have an over 40-year work history in the gaming industry. Starting when I went to UNR, I worked at what was then MGM Grand Sierra Resorts, cleaning up the mall and the bowling center as a porter. Graduated from college, worked in Nevada for a lot of the big companies. I was with the Golden Nugget when they were building the Mirage on the Strip, and got to work in finance and in operations really throughout the United States. Had the good fortune to meet the J&J team about 3 years ago and join them. It's a great organization. I'm so happy to be in front of you today, and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've seen a lot. How have you avoided being before us before?
I got that same question the first with the control board as well. I've moved all around the United States. I've been with Nevada-based companies before. With the Mirage, I wasn't at the high enough level to get in front of the commission, but yeah, it amazes me too that it's been this long.
You've seen a lot of changes, I'm sure, over the years. I remember when all of those properties were built, so I'm feeling my age these days.
Mine too.
Are you? And that's what I was looking back at your materials. You're living in Reno, or you still live back in Illinois?
I'm in
Memphis,
Effingham.
Tennessee.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I work out of Effingham office.
Oh, that's right,
Corporate
because your
office.
grandkids are there.
Yeah, I'm travel back and forth, and we've been spending a lot of time in Vegas. My mother still lives there, so it was a good acquisition for me from a personal level. I get to visit more often.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
And don't feel lesser because you've only been with the company for 3 years and not 30.
Yeah.
You are worthy. Appreciate the story. I appreciate the Nevada roots, the UNR, and I think you shared the story of being a porter at the old MGM. It was a long time ago.
It was.
Yeah, good on you. Providence, Rhode Island. This commissioner was born at Kent County Hospital in Warwick and Providence, Rhode Island. Do you ever go back there? Still have family, or
I
just
do.
happen to be born there?
Yeah, yeah, no, I was born in the Providence Hospital myself, but we lived in Cranston, so Kent County
Yep.
was where I was pretty much every other weekend, being the accident-prone kid when I was growing up. Yeah, I still have aunts, uncles, cousins that are in Rhode Island and get back once a year or once every 2 years for sure.
It's a beautiful place. I appreciate that. Again, I love the CV, love the Nevada story, understand why you're in Memphis and chasing family things, but this is a neat opportunity for you. Good on them for recognizing you're an important part of this opportunity for the company. I fully support your application. Happy to do so.
Thank you.
Sir, you mentioned being at the Golden Nugget years and years ago. When was that?
So it was before the Mirage, so 87, 88. I started off with the Nugget. The Mirage was under construction, but hadn't quite opened yet. So I was an internal auditor, worked out of the downtown office, and started doing a lot of audit work on the actual Mirage pre-opening. And shortly after opening, I moved out of the audit department and into the operational finance department of the Mirage. So it was really just a lead in straight into that time when the property was opened.
Well, we're about the same age, yet I was at the Golden Nugget as a pool attendant, so you were already overachieving. While I was deadheading marigolds at the Golden Nugget pool. But anyway, I obviously you're eminently qualified. You have a background that is worthy of the support of at least myself, and I assume the commission soon to be. So I will ask if my colleagues have any questions or comments. Anything additional?
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Farrell, when a chief financial officer can produce or have in front of them the kind of metrics that are reviewed in your deck, I mean, I assume those are the kind of metrics that give people goosebumps. Remarkable, and I've seen some good ones before. Congratulations to all of you for this incline in the main key metrics, and good luck going forward. Do you have any comments about what you see in the future as any things that, if the standard phrase of keeping you awake at night, any turbulence, since that's a subject today, in the future that you would be wary of?
I don't think I don't sleep well in general, but it's not because I'm worried about financial stuff. From an execution standpoint, the track record has been incredible. Look, we've quadrupled just since 2019, the cash flow. And it's been because I get to write the numbers down, but really Jeff Pryor and Bob Willenborg and this whole J&J team really make those metrics look like they are. And it's been, hard work and opportune investment in new companies and new opportunities. And I think that's really the culture of J&J, and that's what we're going to do going forward as well. So on that end, I sleep fine.
Comforting to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Silver?
I just echo what all of my fellow commissioners have said. And I know in your presentation to the board, you said that you're a Chaparral High School graduate. Would that be class of 81 with your age, since you seem to be about my age?
That's it.
And
81.
yeah, 82 Clark. So I know we know the same people, except for you went off to UNR and didn't stick with UNLV. So
Yeah.
besides that, that's the only blemish on your record.
Okay.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding, because I know there's a million UNR people up there. So sorry about that.
You're no
Anyway,
longer in the political arena. So
So thank you again for appearing here and continuing everything that you've done for Nevada. Thank you.
And Madam
Thank you.
Chair, if I can ask one more question, could you
Sure.
remind me how you anticipate using your time? Living in Memphis, you're away from most of those with whom you're working, and CFO is just such an intimate position for all of the operations. What do you anticipate, or what is your current schedule in terms of physically visiting properties and working with those that report to you?
Sure. I have an apartment in Effingham.
I know where that is, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So basically on Monday morning at 5 a.m. I drive to Effingham. I'm there for the week. So I'm with the team 5 days a week. In terms of travel here or to Montana or other, where there could be other opportunities, do that, just kind of feather that into schedule. Most weekends I spend in Memphis, or I'm just with me and my wife now. So sometimes she comes up to Effingham for a weekend as well. So essentially I'm in the corporate office full time.
Okay. But how often would you anticipate being in Nevada, for example?
It's since
Quarterly?
It's been monthly. It's been above monthly this year. I think I've made over 12 trips already. So I would think probably that will continue once a month. There seems to be some reason to get out here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we appreciate you appearing before us today. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and now we would like to turn to our folks on Zoom. We have Kay Jansen and Jack Jansen, and I believe they're appearing together in a conference room.
Nicole, any information on?
We are looking to see if they are connected to Zoom.
Okay,
Hello, Chair. This is broadcast. We do not have the Jansens in our Zoom at the moment.
okay. So let's see here. Ms. Okerberg, do you have any text contact with them to see if they're having trouble, or is it us?
We are on the phone with them right now, and they said they are watching.
They're watching, they can listen to everything we're saying, but apparently we can't get them. You're on the Zoom link right there, not YouTube. Yeah.
I guess I would ask my colleagues.
Just drop.
We have obviously the investigation materials. We have the meeting before the board. All of us are familiar with those meetings. Are there any of my colleagues that feel that we can't move forward with their applications unless and until they're here to answer questions, knowing that they are available, but for technological reasons, it looks like we can't get them in, and I hate to trail it and make them wait, but that's if
Madam
anybody
Chair,
has any questions.
I support that approach. Again, the Gaming Control Board and our extensive documentation, finances and personal histories, I'm comfortable. I don't have a question of great substance to ask. So if you wish to move forward, I would certainly support that.
Commissioner Solis Rainey,
I don't have any problem with that approach either, Chair.
Commissioner Silver and Marcantonis.
I'm comfortable with that approach as well, Chair.
Agreed.
Okay, Ms. Okerberg, we're going to go forward.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. And I just want to note that I know Kay and Jack would have liked to express their appreciation for the agent and for the board staff time. So I'll just put that on the record on their behalf.
Thank you.
With that,
So-
we didn't have any further part of our affirmative presentation. If there are any more questions, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would extend my appreciation for all of the efforts of the agents, both on the personal applications and the corporate applications. We know that this was complicated, but they worked through it very well and were very responsive and professional and great to work with.
Ms. Okerberg, was there another applicant? I had a Mr. Brewer.
Mr. Brewer was a registrant and the
Oh,
board
okay.
approved that.
Okay, got it.
Thank you for confirming.
And Madam Chair, if I might too, this was such an extensive, broad portfolio of information. And I think half the Gaming Control Board agents worked on this. And so there's a big list, but just kudos and a shout out to those who helped make this application, which could have been incredibly complex, pretty straightforward and readable and appreciate the effort. Never take it for granted, but you all acquitted yourselves extraordinarily well. Thank you.
And I know we all appreciate their efforts on this this agenda item. And at this time, if there's nothing else, I would ask if one of my colleagues has a motion to make.
Certainly. Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 1 with the conditions as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by Nevada's Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Any discussion or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much, council, and to your clients.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 2.
Non-restricted number 2 are the applications of Macquarie Capital Investment Holdings, Inc. for waivers of Nevada Revised Statutes 463.58 and 463.595 and Nevada Gaming Commission Regulations 15.585.7-4 and 15B.190 as an institutional investor pursuant to Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 15B.070. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, Greg Giordano, the law firm McDonald Crono, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Macquarie Capital Investment Holdings, or MCIH. First, want to thank you for allowing the appearance. Hopefully they'll be able to appear via Zoom from New York, both Tim Coonan, Senior Vice President from Macquarie Capital, and Paulina Chan, Managing Director, Macquarie Capital Compliance. Chair, we made a presentation to the board with respect to the qualifications of MCIH for an institutional investor waiver under the regulations and statutes cited. It's basically the same qualifications that you found acceptable when you approved them to have institutional investor waiver previously in February this year. And this time around, due to the restructuring of JJVG, they're requesting institutional investor waiver with respect to their approximate 12.4% equity ownership in JJVG Holdings LLC. So I don't know how you want to proceed. You want me to go over some of the qualifications again, or just simply see if we can ask questions of the representatives of the applicant and go from there? But whatever you want to do, we're happy to comply.
Well, first make a record that your representatives are present on Zoom on our screens here. I guess maybe you don't get the opportunity to see that, and I'm sorry for that, but
Right.
We're learning as we go in this room, which is beautiful.
I do see it now on my screen. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, I would ask my colleagues in Carson, do you have any questions for on this agenda item?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Certainly nice to see Mr. Coonan and Ms. Chen. Thank you for being with us virtually. Mr. Giordano, would you just refresh my memory on why the waiver? I mean, I see all the words, it's consistent with NRS but why the waiver is actually necessary? Just describe that. And I think it's the holding securities for investment purposes only. It's 12.35%, less than the 15% threshold. But could you just repackage that for me, please?
Sure. The situation is that under the statute regulations, anybody that owns more than 5%, over 5% of a private gaming company, or whole registered holding company, which JJVG Holdings is, has to be licensed or found suitable. MCIH, such a large company, really isn't very practical for them to be licensed, found suitable on their own and respect to their executives. So because they're an institutional investor waiver under the statutory regulatory definition, per the commission agreement, then they are entitled to a waiver of that licensing finance suitability requirement. to allow them to own the approximate 12.4% equity in JJVG Holdings.
And that makes sense. So, but they're eligible for the waiver, or it's a discretionary item by the control board in this commission?
Well, it's discretion in the sense that they're eligible for the waiver, but it's in the discretion, of course, the board's recommendation, the commission's approval to grant the waiver. It's not mandatory or automatic.
It's an educational moment for me, not a question about the applicant. No, I'm perfectly comfortable. I understand why you are doing this. I thought the presentation in front of the Gaming Control Board was, spot on and clear. We saw many of you in February of 24, so I'm very happy to support the application.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solis Rainey.
And Mr. Giordano, thank you for being in front of us, and thank you to the applicants as well for being here. I didn't have any additional questions. I was pretty comfortable with it back when we approved it in February, and really nothing's changed in my mind. So I'm happy to support the application. Thank you.
Before I ask my fellow commissioners with me, I just want to confirm that we're talking about draft number 1 dated 10/15/24 is our order. Yes,
that is correct. That's correct. Draft of the order, Chair, and as we mentioned to the board and discussed it with them, that we believe that order is appropriate in circumstances, and its terms and revisions are acceptable.
okay, thank you. At this time, Commissioner Silver, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Chair. No, there were no areas of concern with the board, and it's very straightforward per the statute. So I have no areas of concern as well.
Commissioner Marcantonis, anything?
No further questions, Chair. Happy to move forward.
All right. At this time, is there anyone present who wishes to make a motion? Or any of my commissioners wish to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 2 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board pursuant to draft number 1 dated October 15th, 2024.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both for being here to answer any questions if we had any. We appreciate it. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 3?
Non-restricted number 3 are the applications of Leisure Gaming, Inc. for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the application of LG Holdings Group, Inc. for licensure as sole shareholder of Leisure Gaming, LLC. You also have the application of LG Holdings Group, Inc. for registration as an intermediary company. It is also the application of Leisure Gaming, Inc. to convert Leisure Gaming, Inc. to a limited liability company to be known as Leisure Gaming, LLC. You also have the application of Leisure Gaming, LLC for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda. Lastly, it is also the applications of William A. Douglas Gaming Trust, Douglas Gaming Trust, Lee R. Sanford Gaming Trust, LG Holdings Group, Inc., Golden Route Operations, LLC, Ralph Albright, Ryan Albright, Kyle Albright, and William Douglas for finding of suitability and or licensure as a shareholder, director, officer, member, manager, key executive, and or key employee as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning again, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Okerberg, appearing on behalf of J&J Nevada and Golden Route Operations on this matter. Here next to me is Jamal Goodrich, the in-house counsel. If there are any questions for Leisure, we also have Ryan Albright here, and Counsel Dennis Gottwald is appearing in Las Vegas. We know that the commissioners have watched the affirmative presentation that we provided at the board meeting, where we explained the different steps in the transaction and gave an overview of that. So if we could, Mr. Goodrich would like to just make 2 brief points regarding the employees and the key employee condition, and then we would make ourselves available for any questions.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. I am Jamal Goodrich. I'm in-house counsel for J&J Ventures and its wholly owned subsidiary, Golden Route Operations, LLC. We just had a couple brief points we wanted to reiterate from our affirmative presentation from the board. One being, we do intend to keep all employees who wish to stay with Golden Route Operations at the close of this acquisition, as well as we understand the conditional license of no more than 9 locations for our key employee. Obviously, Leisure currently has 2 key employees for their 10 locations, and we do intend to keep that key employee kind of management status as we close this transition. So with that being said, don't have anything further, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Commissioners Krolicki or Slovis Rainey?
Mr. Goodrich, I just wanted to confirm, I believe you did so at the board meeting, but just for the record, the employees will all be maintained at their current benefit package and seniority levels and such?
Correct.
And then with respect to the condition, there was discussion as far as just the geographical distance between these locations. I mean, I realize, you know, some of them are rural and hard to get to and stuff. So the condition is for 9. I was a lot more comfortable with the 4 to 5 that you currently maintain. So I would just, you know, hope you're able to maintain it at that level. But I don't have a problem with supporting the condition to say no more than 9.
Yeah, correct, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to be redundant, but just to get it on the record, your conversation with the Gaming Control Board was extensive and if even exhaustive in many ways, but it was well done. But just confirming, you know, I know this is somewhat of a bittersweet story. Something extraordinary was created, and it's always hard to let go. But you know, again, congratulations on the business and the success and the stories that have led up to this opportunity for the company. So all good there. The conversion to the LLC is for tax purposes, correct?
Correct.
That's why it's in front of us today. We've already talked about the employees, but you know, that's important. You know, understand when changes happen, you can't always do that, but it's another good piece of this story. And it was a heartfelt comment from Mr. Albright, you know, about that being such an important part of the transaction. So, you know, good on that. The 9 locations, I think, again, Mr. Albright talked about going out to West Wendover. You know, I've done that 500-mile drive a whole bunch of times in my political career. It's a long one. But I'm still, you know, I know we say 9. Your testimony in front of the Gaming Control Board and just now says it's probably going to be more like 5 properties are going to be, you know, supervised by each manager. But, you know, I'm not sure why we don't say that. You know, is it just for the flexibility purposes if we say 9, even though we all think it's going to be 5, and if you make any changes, you'll let us know. But could you just talk a little bit more about, you know, if 9 means 5, why we're not talking about 5 or 6 or something like that? It's
Sure.
for a non-restricted license, which is certainly different than, you know, other times when we have supervision of the restricted licensees.
Sure, absolutely, Commissioner Krolicki. I think 1 is for continuity. That is an existing condition that's already on the license, and that has been how things have been done for a few years, as I understand it. I think the second piece is that allows flexibility in the future. If perhaps they bring on new locations that are closer together, it may actually be more appropriate for somebody to be able to take on more than 5 locations, for example, and 9 might be an appropriate number. Of course, we would have to come before the board and the commission if that were to happen, but then we wouldn't need to seek an amendment to the condition at that time.
And again, just to remind me, so in that situation, you would submit that a change has been made, or, you know, new portfolio management, if you will, of properties is there, and that would be subject to the approval of the chair of the Gaming Control Board.
That's correct.
Thank you. It's very helpful. I'm fully supportive. Again, there's a whole lot of sweat and elbow grease and emotion have gone into the point of this happening in front of us today. It's applauded, it's appreciated, and congratulations to all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marcantonis?
Good morning and good to see you again, Mr. Goodrich. And I was very satisfied with the presentations in front of the Gaming Control Board, and we'll be happy to support this application, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Silver.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see both of you. The only additional question I had is, I know that Chairman Hendricks was all right with this many locations because this was slot machines only. And I was just wondering if there was any plans for anything more, after the transfer? Is there any plans in the future to add more gaming than just slot machines to any of these locations?
At this time, we don't have any additional plans. Obviously, that could change in the future, but we intend to keep operations as is at closing and move that way moving forward.
Thank you. I'm happy to support your application. Thank you.
Most of these properties have between 16 and 30 machines. Is that correct?
Some of the properties have more than that. I think they have more on average 40 to 50 machines. And so they're a little bit larger than what you'd see at your normal C-store, 7-Eleven. But I don't believe any have, more than 100 or so.
Thank you.
I don't have any additional questions. I do appreciate your being present and appearing before us to answer all these questions. And at this time, I think unless anybody has anything else, it's right for a motion.
Madam Chair, if I may, Mr. Albright is in the audience, and I didn't know if he wanted an opportunity to say anything. I know this is probably a bittersweet moment for his family. So if he wanted to add anything, I would, with your indulgence, if we could give him that opportunity, that would be great.
Sure.
I'm happy to. Good morning, first off.
Good morning.
Commissioners. It's always a pleasure. Just what I said at the board. Feel real good about this, but you have a mix of emotions. So mostly positive, but some, not wanting to let go of something you've had for a long time. So
you can adopt a new child.
There you go.
And grow it again.
There you go. And I'm going to stay on board in a, kind of a different capacity, but excited about that as well. So.
Great. All right. Well, I didn't mean to put you in the spot. Just if you wanted that opportunity, I wanted to make sure we made that available to you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion if there's nothing else from any of our colleagues. Good. All right. I move for approval of non-restricted item number 3 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And it appears there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 4.
Non-restricted number 4 are the applications of Vincent Zahn for finding of suitability as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary, A.G. Burnett here appearing with Mr. Vince Zahn, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for the company, as Madam Secretary noted. He's coming before you for finding of suitability as a key executive today. He had a very robust conversation before the Gaming Control Board where he gave a detailed background history of himself. He's happy to do that again today, should you wish, or we are happy to jump right into the questions, should you have any.
How about the short version?
Cliff notes.
Sure. Well, good morning, Madam Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, and Madam Secretary. For the record, my name is Vincent Zahn, EVP and CFO of Hard Rock International and Seminole Gaming. Cliff Notes version of my background: I was born and raised in New Jersey, where I went to school through high school. After that, I attended college at Fordham University in New York City, where I graduated with a degree in finance, minors in management and economics. After that, I had several positions in financial analyst roles at AIG and Cross Border Solutions, where I did economic consulting and worked for AIG's energy division. After that, I joined Prudential Equity Group on Wall Street, where I was an equity analyst covering computer services. I was introduced to the gaming industry in 2006 when I accepted a role as an equity analyst at Merrill Lynch, where I covered the gaming and gaming technology industries at Merrill Lynch for approximately 5 years. I was exposed to Pinnacle Entertainment and the management team there during my 5 years as an analyst at Merrill Lynch, and grew accustomed to the company and the management team there, and was asked to join that company in 2011 as the Vice President of Investor Relations, at which time I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada to take that position along with my wife and at the time 2 children. Lived in Las Vegas for roughly 12 years. Over that span, 8 of those years were spent at Pinnacle, approximately 4 spent at Wynn Resorts, most recently as SVP and treasurer of that company. And that positioned me to accept my present role as EVP and CFO of Hard Rock International and Seminole Gaming, where I am today. I've been in that position for about a year and a half. Over the 12 years in Las Vegas, rather, we had 2 additional children. So right now, living in Florida with my amazing wife, Angela, and our 4 boys.
Thank you so much for appearing before us today. We appreciate it. And it's always a really good opportunity for us to meet with the applicants. And so at this time, I'm going to ask my colleagues, Commissioners Krolicki and Solis Rainey, if they have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zahn, welcome. You were such a pleasure to watch during the Gaming Control Board exchange. Never met you, never saw you, but it was just a very enjoyable journey to watch and listen to your story. I think there were appropriate questions, but you just had marvelous answers to everything. So if I can just do a couple things. One is, again, your conversation at the Gaming Control Board about fiduciary standards, coming from Pinnacle and Wynn, your assertion that, and sitting on a board of, public company and current and past, there's a lot of work. The standards are excruciating and annoying oftentimes, but that's what you do when you've got the SEC looking over your shoulder. But to maintain those standards as CFO for Seminole, I think that's a wonderful threshold to wish to maintain. But did you want to talk about that a little bit more, and how much that threshold will be indulged, even if it's perhaps not required? It's not a public company.
Sure. Well, I think it comes down to the financial infrastructure and the team that you have at the company. And we've spent, the last year and a half really building out the finance team. And, when you talk about fiduciary obligation, a lot of that comes back to your financial controls, your policies, your procedures, and reporting requirements. So, we've made a lot of moves over the past year and a half to review and fortify all of our controls, review and fortify our reporting, really build up the various silos within the finance team, whether it's financial reporting, GL accounting, tax. So we've built those up. We've added a head of internal audit. We've always had an internal audit function that covered each of the gaming assets in particular. But we've added a head of internal audit, Mark Yingling, who is actually based in Las Vegas, Nevada, who coordinates all that centrally and really makes sure that we have a very robust effort in terms of our internal controls, our policies, and our procedures. Mark is somebody that has a public company background and knows those standards very well, with well over a decade of public company experience at Pinnacle and at Penn National Gaming, or Penn Entertainment today. So that's a key element of it. And then I think there's other aspects to how we are elevating that standard. Risk management would be a really good example. Risk management, having a risk register, having a conversation with the board and the audit committee every year about the risks the company faces, and having that risk focus become part of our culture. So that's an additional element. And then really having a far more and better robust agenda with our audit committee, our independent audit committee. That's a key element as well. So internal audit feeds into that, risk management feeds into that, financial reporting feeds into that. So it's really just getting all the pieces coordinated and in place. And we've made a lot of progress on that over the past year and a half. And it's an ongoing effort, constantly improving, constantly monitoring, evaluating, and modifying, your controls, policy, and procedure as the business evolves over time. So it's a huge focus of mine, not only just for the sake of meeting that fiduciary obligation, but the positive feedback that environment can have actually on the operations of the company and the financial performance of the company. There's a very positive commercial impact that those things could have as well.
I don't want to say enjoy, but it's always interesting when the internal auditor comes in front of the board or the audit committee. Those little nuggets, come out of there. So does the internal auditor reports to the audit committee, but are you a dotted line or a straight line?
Yeah, Mark administratively reports to me. Administratively reports to John Lucas, the COO of Hard Rock, but his hard reporting line is to the audit committee, directly to the independent audit committee, and specifically Brad Buchanan, the audit committee chair. And I say administrative reporting because I mentioned this during the Gaming Control Board conversation. You need help navigating the company, right? You need help getting access to people, access to information, access to different areas of the company, and then also creating that feedback loop between internal audit findings and actually acting on those findings if there's improvement needed to implement change. So it's really important to have an independent hard line to the audit committee where those independent conversations can happen between internal audit and the audit committee. But then when things need to be, corrected, changed, implemented, that's where you need administrative reporting lines to ensure that those get done.
Music to this audit committee chairman's ears. So thank you for that. Who's your outside auditor?
Deloitte and Touche.
Good.
Or Deloitte, I guess they only go by Deloitte nowadays, but
they do.
I'm old school.
But it irritates them, so we keep saying it.
Exactly.
I know there was some discussion about your education, and I think you're one of the few, the company of this size and have to not have an MBA, but I appreciated your CFA, conversation, and it made perfect sense. Again, it's just a credential, but you've experienced and have done this long enough. That's never an issue. You feel like your academic training has perfectly set you up for this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Studying finance at Fordham is, in my opinion, a very good foundation, but having immediately entered after graduating Fordham in 2001 with a finance degree, entering that chartered financial analyst program was really pivotal. It's a 3-year program. You sit for 3 exams over a 3-year span. The first exam is very accounting heavy, accounting focused. There's finance principles on there, corporate finance, valuation, et cetera, but it has a very heavy accounting emphasis. And those exams evolve and get deeper and deeper into finance over levels 2 and 3. So pass those successively in 01, 02, 03. You need 3 years of quote unquote applicable work experience that directly relates to finance or accounting to ultimately be awarded the charter. Once I fulfilled that obligation, I was awarded the charter. So I think that's an excellent foundation. The reality is that, the work that I did, both on Wall Street to really fine tune those skills and deploy those skills, but really at Pinnacle, the 8 years that I was at Pinnacle and the 4 years I was at Wynn, and working on all the transactions that I worked on, understanding and really learning the operations of the gaming business and the casino industry. That's where you really take those skills and fine tune those and expand that envelope. And, I would point to the transactions I was part of at Pinnacle, whether it was the acquisition of Ameristar, the separation from our real estate and sale to GLPI, and creation of Pinnacle as an operating company, going through the M&A process to sell that company to Penn Entertainment in 2018. And then the, billions of financing transactions I did while I was at Wynn. It's really that foundation of academics combined with practical, execution of finance and learning the business and learning operations in my roles that really positions me best. So.
Well, I don't know who mentioned it during the Gaming Control Board meeting, but Mr. Allen chose wisely. Again, it's just very impressive. And I would argue, and perhaps you would too in 2 seconds, that the CFA was the discipline and the time and the quality of that experience is outperforms a traditional MBA, but good on you, and I think that's great. If I can transition to more personal, the personal side of the story, you've got 4 boys, right? Set of twins. That's a lot of energy at home.
Yes.
I have 3 daughters, no boys, so completely different experience. Can't relate. Your 529 program. I spent a lot of time in my life dealing with 529 programs, but do you have the prepaid or the savings plans? And I know you're with Edward Jones for all 4.
Yeah, I actually have no discretion over that. That is my mother-in-law, Claire St. Laurent. She's put that money in 529 plans for each of my 4 children. She has sole discretion over that. So I have nothing to do.
How old are they?
My oldest son is Christian. He's 16. Colton is 13. The twins are 11, Braden and Brooks. So she's been contributing money to those 529s on their behalf essentially since their birth. So I have no discretion or control over that, but we've disclosed it in my application because it is an
asset for the family.
An asset for the family.
No, I get that. I wish your mother-in-law had talked to my mother-in-law, would have been very helpful. I love you very much, mother-in-law. And speaking of that, you mentioned amazing wife. We'll make sure that's in the record and she can get a copy of the minute.
I'm going to email her the YouTube video later.
Some points. One of the other things I thought was very interesting and it was not discussed is, again, I spent a lot of time doing money things for the state as state treasurer I was in that office for 16 years. Loved every minute of it. We didn't have an economic forum when I started, but one of my jobs was dealing with the rating agencies and just, how do you sophisticate Nevada up? We used to, build a budget and then figure out how to get the revenue to match, the expenditures. Not a good way. And that's the economic forum. So you spent a year on the economic forum. Can you talk about that experience a little bit? And thank you for doing that. It's a huge seatbelt on Nevada's legislative budget operations, but good on you. But can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. So I was appointed to the Economic Forum in 2022 by Governor Sisolak into a role that traditionally someone at Wynn Resorts had filled. So, went through an extensive meeting process with the forum's leadership and ultimately joined in 2022. So the forum, as you know, is tasked with evaluating and analyzing the various tax revenue streams that the state takes in, whether it's live entertainment tax, gaming tax, various insurance and surplus lines tax, employment taxes, et cetera. Analyzing those, evaluating those based upon materials and presentations made by all the relevant governor finance departments and all the other ministries and areas within the government that have, influence over those revenue streams. And the Gaming Control Board is a great example of that. They would give a presentation, every single meeting, and analyzing those, evaluating those, listening to the presentations from all the members of the various offices, listening to third-party presentations. Moody's and the rating agencies came in and presented on the status of the economy, interest rates, the consumer, for us to really assess all those tax revenue streamlines. And ultimately, the goal was for that economic forum to make decisions on the biennial revenue budgets for the state, which we did based upon those materials, those evaluations, and those presentations. It was a tremendous learning experience for me. I really enjoyed taking a deeper dive into how a government functions from a revenue perspective. I think while not directly applicable, it's certainly helpful and a good learning experience for somebody that's an aspiring CFO. At that time. And I was on the forum for only 1 year, unfortunately, and resigned my position upon leaving Nevada to move to Florida in the spring of 2023.
Well, again, thank you for that service. I know that's a big digression from what we're doing today, but what an insight into Nevada, how it does its money. There's a lot of pressure and everybody wants an estimate on the high side of the various revenues that go into building a state budget because there's always more need, but fascinating experience that you had, and I applaud you for doing it. I didn't finish my 529. Nevada has tremendous 529 programs. You're too late for prepaid, but the college savings side, one of the Morningstar says we're one of the top 3. Treasurer Conine you still have enough Nevada in you. You can still do it, and can never save enough for kids if they're college bound. You can always give it to cousins if it doesn't work for them. But no, I am. I've been fascinated by your story and your presentation to the Gaming Control Board. Thank you for being with us. Mr. Burnett, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir. You haven't had to say anything yet, so you just stand there and
trying to keep it that way.
Intimidate the commission here. But no, I am absolutely delighted to support your application, and they're very fortunate to have you.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have anything to add, not because, I have nothing but positive thoughts about your application. I think you're very qualified. I appreciate the discussion regarding the academics, and while I strongly believe education is a cornerstone and it's key to people's success, I think a JOB is equally important, and you've done that very well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't have any additional questions or comments. I appreciate the dialogue between, well, you being here and having this dialogue with us. Do Commissioners Arcantonis or Silver have anything to add?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Zahn, excellent background. Congratulations. You moved around considerably in the casino industry. Do you report to Mr. Allen or to Mr. Lucas?
Yes, sir. I report to Jim Allen.
Jim, and Mr. Lucas stood before us perhaps 3 or 4 months ago. Your time, I was thinking about the time that you get for yourself, and actually Commissioner Krylicki touched on it. You've got 4 very energetic youngsters. You have a spouse who also has an amazing, it seems, a career that she has worked with. And you're a very busy person because your company is extremely busy at the same time. You have your hands full, of course, on the Strip. Are you involved much in your role with the international expansion of the company?
Yes, sir. I oversee our financial operations globally on the Hard Rock side, and also our financial operations within Florida and Seminole Gaming. We have a full-fledged development.
Oh, sorry. Please go ahead. I apologize.
If you're referring specifically to development and expansion within Hard Rock, we have a full-fledged development team, a very robust and highly qualified development team. And, you know, really the growth and expansion efforts of the company globally, evaluating those, financing those, it very much is a team effort. And Jim is a part of that. I'm a big part of that. And that Hard Rock development team, which consists of 5, 6 individuals that, you know, run every aspect of us evaluating a development opportunity or executing a development opportunity. So we have a really great team, a really great platform. So that doesn't sit just on my shoulders. It really is a team effort when it comes to that.
Excellent. And I know that the project that you all have at Hellenicon has, at least what I've read, be the biggest project in Europe. Is that true? And could you give us any offhand comment about the timeline for the completion of that?
Sure. So we broke ground on Hard Rock in Athens in late 2023. Construction there is progressing. It's an approximate 3-year construction timetable from when we broke ground. We have that project financed with a consortium of Greek banks, which combined with equity being provided by Hard Rock and our partner, Gekturna, a Greek publicly traded company, that completes the financing package for that. And we're really, really excited about that. That'll give Hard Rock a pretty significant measure of geographic diversification, geographic expansion. I can't comment. I don't want to misspeak on it being, you know, the size of the project relative to others that have occurred, you know, or are occurring in Europe. I won't comment on that just because I don't have the facts on that. But we're incredibly excited about that project, and it's progressing.
Thank you for that. You had touched on in your presentation to the Gaming Control Board on cybersecurity protocols, and which is impressive and something that we all need to be aware of in today's climate. What sort of headwinds do you see for our industry as a whole, just in that field? I know that you have numerous protocols that you have put in place in your organization. Is there anything you'd care to comment on any further on that?
No, there's not much I would add other than a company has got to be continuously focused on evaluating those policies and procedures. In fact, I just had a conversation this morning prior to coming and appearing before the commission with our IT team about $5 million of investment that we're making within cyber over the next 12 to 18 months. And it was really a check-in meeting on progress for that. So we just kicked off that process, and we've begun to make commitments there. And with that $5 million next stage investment that we're making in cyber, by fortifying, you know, several key systems and access points in the company with those dollars, apart from the dollars that we spend, you know, the tens of millions we spend on a recurring annual basis that maintain our cyber infrastructure. So I just would say you really need to be continuously vigilant with it. the cybersecurity, panel of individuals in our company that we put together in late 2023. We meet every month to 2 months, depending upon what the demands are, no minimum than every other month. We're constantly talking about issues. We're constantly discussing investments that we can make. We're constantly discussing potential areas of vulnerability in our company, in the industry in general. So there's nothing specific I'd point to other than it really needs to be a focus of the company. You need to make continual investment in it, continual progress in it. And we're committed as a company to doing that.
Good to hear. Thank you for that response, Mr. Zahn. And Chair, those are my questions. I'm very happy to support Mr. Zahn's application. Thank you.
All right. And if there's no other additional comments or questions, it would appear that this is ripe for a motion.
Madam Chair. In that case, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 4, as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by Nevada's Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And Commissioner Krolicki, did you say aye?
Yes, I said aye. Aye.
Okay, I'm sorry. Aye, aye. Aye, aye, Captain. Got it. So that was all in favor and none opposed. Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate your appearance very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. How's the court reporter doing?
I'm doing well, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 5.
Non-restricted number 5 are the applications of GLM Gaming LLC doing business as Barton's Club 93 for a non-restricted gaming license for licensure as a manufacturer and distributor, and to grant an option to purchase membership interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Christian Good and Dana Leibovitz for licensure as a member, manager, key executive, and/or key employee as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, Jennifer Gaynor, J. Gaynor Law, here with my client GLM Gaming. With you in person in Carson, you have CEO Christian Good and COO Dana Leibovitz. Also online, we have the 3 minority equity interest holders, Frank Palmieri, Van Bedobami, and Chad Mostetz. They have been approved by the board. However, they've made themselves available here today to answer any questions you may have. With that, Mr. Good is prepared to give an abbreviated version of the presentation he gave to the board to share plans for operations and improvements at the property. However, we are just as happy to turn it over to you for questions.
Well, we appreciate the abbreviated presentation, but before we get to that, I just want to confirm with our Madam Secretary whether we do have the individuals on Zoom. We just can't see them here, so we can obviously see council here, but that's all we see. I mean, we see the Carson boardroom. Okay, there we go. Mr. Palmieri's there, and then there they all are. Great. So the record should reflect we have all 3 of our Zoom appearances and applicants present via Zoom. So at this time, if you want to go ahead and give us your abbreviated comments, we'd appreciate it very much.
Good morning, Chairwoman Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. We appreciate the time and the appearance here before the Commission. I'm Christian Good, the CEO, Managing Partner of GLM Gaming LLC. Just to kind of touch on our board presentation, we as a group have looked at buying a property, and we've all had extensive background in the gaming industry. And over the last couple of years, we looked to find a property that would make a good investment for us, something that we could take and mold and build to something to be a success story that you heard about earlier with like a J&J Ventures, right? So this is kind of our first foray into that on an individual personal investment level. We looked a long time. We looked at a lot of properties, kicked a lot of tires. We came across the property, Barton's Club 93 Inc. in Jackpot, Nevada. It's been operated nonstop since 1957. It was a family business. From what I understand, I got to know the two surviving owners, which is Bob and Robin Barton. Robin was married to Tom, who is Bob's brother. They were the children of the founder of the property. So it's been a family business. It's been run that way for, almost 70 years now. So when we got introduced to the property, you look at things online, you take a picture, somebody says, "Oh, would you be interested in it?" And you say, "Oh yeah, maybe." It wasn't until we actually visited the property that we realized that this is a property that made a bunch of sense for us. One, it's in a strategic location. You're about 40 minutes south of Twin Falls. You're just inside the Nevada border. Number two, it's the appropriate size that, made sense for us to make an investment, a deal structure, a deal size that we could swallow and be in good shape to move forward with. It's got 100 hotel rooms, 300 slot machines today, 13 table games, a nice restaurant / buffet area, some meeting and conference space. And really, they've kept the property up in really great shape. The one thing that we quickly identified is that, look, when it's a family-run business and you've been doing it a long time, sometimes you need new eyes. Everything has a shelf life, if you will. And the ownership is getting on. And I think with Tom Barton, who was really the driving force over probably the last 40 years of the business, when he passed away, I think the business, it continued to operate, continued to do well, but it hasn't really modernized. So we look at this business and this opportunity as an opportunity to take an existing business that does fairly well and make it do great and expand and continue to build on what's been there for the last almost 70 years, as I said. So we're super excited about it. We think there's a lot of things that we can do. We're looking to invest, probably up almost $500,000 in CapEx in the first year, whether that's improved systems from the gaming system and expansion to a new POS system to new hotel systems to upgrading the slot floor with more modern games, that you would see in Las Vegas or other places to make it a better customer experience for those that are coming. Develop a real rewards program that gives people incentives to come there, introduce the property to all the transient guests coming through, to those people in Twin Falls and Boise and even further. So we're really excited about the opportunity. We think that there's a ton of potential. A couple things to touch on. We are hiring every employee that exists there today. We actually hope to, by the end of the year, to expand our employment or employee roster by probably 20%. With proper marketing and new programs and new initiatives and some kind of polish on the property, we think we can increase the volumes significantly or materially, if you will. So, we're looking to expand. This is the first foray, but we hope it's the first of many. And we're back several times to tell you about how we have 7 locations or 9 locations. I'd love to have the problems that you guys spoke about earlier. And, to touch on some of the other things that maybe we touched in the board meeting, but as you asked the previous applicant about cybersecurity, properties like these are not immune. When IGT can get hacked or MGM can get hacked or Caesars or whoever, even small properties like this. So some of our investments won't be as obvious, but putting in a new network, putting in new firewalls, kind of rebuilding that infrastructure so that it's prepared for tomorrow is stuff that's near and dear to us. So look, we are going to be very hands-on. I personally am going to be on property 24/7 for the foreseeable future. This is one of those things where, I couldn't be more excited. It's a fantastic opportunity, and so we look forward. That's kind of a quick overview, and happy to take any questions.
Madam Chair, if I might start. Mr. Good, welcome.
Sure.
Thoroughly enjoyed the Gaming Control Board presentation. I just love the story. You all complement each other, at least from the introductions that were made. You've all got your little space and skill sets, from operations to security to the marketing, and you just found this, not so easy to find place. We've already teased about West Wendover this morning, but Jackpot's harder to get.
That's true.
As someone, as I keep stating, but I'm proud of it, I've put, a million miles probably driving around the state. Jackpot's not a place I always went to. I think I learned that, there are places in Nevada that had mountain time because I was an hour late, even though it's not official. You recognize mountain time there.
They do.
But I just love the history. You know, I think Pete Persanti, when Idaho banned gaming, Persanti, if that's how you pronounce his name, had slot machines in Idaho, and he just dragged them, you know, down across the border. There was no name for the town. You know, Elko, I think, called it town number one, and no one could agree on the name. And finally, they just said, you know, let's just call it Jackpot. But again, that's the culture of Nevada, the history, and you gotta love that stuff if you're going to be living there for, you know, the next 6 months of your life, you know, implementing the planning and the strategy.
We do, and the property, actually, one of the key members of the management team is the appointed or anointed, I'm not sure if the right terminology there, to lead the quasi-appointed town board. So Elko County's appointed some kind of, I would say, like commissioners or town council people. The gentleman's name is Jeff Young, and they're looking to grow and grow Jackpot and actually become incorporated so that they stand alone. And the success story and some of the challenges they have, we look forward to being part of the solution. Like housing is a big challenge there. Just because you're so remote, it's hard to get people to come out there and build, right? Coming from Elko or even further. So, you know, we think we can be part of that growth process, and we think we can be helpful to them.
And I was going to ask about employment opportunities. I'm delighted you're doing the things you're doing and just putting the capital in there, because I think you have 63 hotel rooms. Is that what?
103, I think, 104.
Of course.
Yeah, we have 63 in the main building, and then we have 2 outbuildings, which I think were the original motels, if you will.
And the other, how many rooms are there in Jackpot? I think.
I think there's 600 total. I think Cactus Pizza has 500. Or probably 550. I think it's 450 somewhere, plus or minus.
And then just the number of employees. I think the population is 1,200 people.
That's correct.
If you've got 120 some odd folks and you want to increase it by 20%, you know,
it's a
the whole town shows up for work every morning, and swing shifts. So where would you recruit these people? Or you think that they're there?
There's a couple things. I think Nevada has a lot to offer, and we can talk about the obvious things. But if you can be in a small town where maybe, you know, the pace is a little bit different and you can live comfortably, live kind of peacefully, I think that's a great attraction. I think you go to places like Twin Falls, right? There's a tax arbitrage to be had if you're thinking about what you make, and we can offer professional jobs. We can offer careers. You know, you talk about a 529 savings plan for people that go to college. We can essentially be a college to somebody that's, you know, just maybe getting a 2-year degree at the community college in Twin Falls, where you can build upon it, and you start entry level and build up, whether it's our property or across the street at our competitors. We think there's a ton of opportunity, but one of the challenges of that is obviously working with the town and the county to make sure that there's housing available. The housing crisis hits there probably hard as it does anywhere, just because there's so little of it or such a limited supply of it. So, you know, we look forward to being part of that solution. We think we can bring some bright ideas, whether it's, you know, add some kind of prefab type places for employees as we expand. Hopefully business is good enough to give us the ability to do that. And we have, myself and one of my partners have a pretty extensive background in real estate and apartments and things of that nature, that we think we can bring some value to that process as well. But Twin Falls is going to be primary. You might want to recruit out of Wells or somebody that's been in a smaller jurisdiction as a promotion or as an opportunity. And you know, when you talk to gaming executives, you guys do every day, day in and day out, you know, one of the things that's great about the industry is mobility, right? People move up, they one position here, they go across town, across states, so on and so forth. So we think that there's some really nice attributes to Jackpot. You know, they got a great golf course that's, frankly, I don't know where you could play golf any cheaper in the country. And it's municipally owned, well taken care of.
Yep.
I looked at it and said, I couldn't believe it. At first I thought Cactus Pizza owned it. So, but it's well taken care of, and it's kind of a quiet, tight knit community. We've done some outreach with, you know, the fire and EMS personnel. The guy actually worked for the Barton family before taking the job for the county of Elko to lead the fire and EMS there. We've talked to the sheriffs that are on patrol there. So, you know, we're trying to get ingrained, but we think that there's a lot going on there. And people are pretty happy to live there. So I think there's going to be opportunity and people that want to come there.
No, I totally agree. And the uniqueness of the 93 corridor coming through there, you do have the traffic. The trucking traffic is obviously extensive, but people, you know, going between the states.
Yeah, and going south for the wintertime, going all the way out of Canada. That's one of the things that attract us to first place. And so when we talk about CapEx, not to go backwards, but, you know, we're adding, you know, we want to look and add a a franchise or a branded kind of coffee shop for people to get off the road, come in, have a cup of coffee. We're also looking at put charge stations in. There's no EV chargers. So if you're doing any kind of those journeys out there, which you're well aware, it's a long ways between points, and Jackpot would be a nice stopping point to charge a
The
Tesla.
place you stop.
Yep.
The place you stop.
It's so, we think that there's some low hanging fruit from that, but we think we can do a lot with the property and make it even more appealing to people to stop.
Can you talk a little bit more about the amount? And I think you were talking about even the technology, and or that's the second phase. Part of your team will be looking at, from Wi-Fi to, some of the very basic things. But, I'm not sure what room rates are there, but $50 to $100 a night.
That's right.
But are you able to, obviously you're a businessman, you want to make money, so your ROI is calculated with those kind of room rates and with
It
the
is, and that's
infrastructure
the-
improvements you're putting in.
Yeah, I think it, to your point, we're all in this we're a for-profit business, and we make no mistake about that. We want to make strategic investments. One of the first things we're going to do is improve the product on the floor, right? It's about getting people that want to come there, and the reason why they come there is you have, late model slot machines, things that titles that they want to play that have become popular. But the other thing is improving the rooms, right? You have to have a nice stay. So the first thing we're going to do is add a fitness center. There's no fitness center on site. So, as people try to get healthier, go for a walk at a dog park. So if you want to bring your dog, you have a place to go out and walk them. Those are just kind of customer looking things that we do. And we talk about the infrastructure, having a POS system, a hotel system, and a casino system that's all integrated. Right now, none of their systems talk to each other. So you can't go to a restaurant and comp your dinner or sign into your room. You can't go to the hotel desk and use, a offer or a gaming reward that you might have earned on the gaming floor. So making that a kind of an integrated, seamless experience, we think will be really appealing to the customer. Now, thankfully, we're able to make a very, I think, a win-win deal with the Barton family to buy the property. They are very well aware of, they've operated a long time. They know what the economics of the businesses are. They want us to succeed, and we've kind of built the agreement that way. So we think we're going to do very well. There's lots of capacity midweek in that jurisdiction or in that market. We think we're going to be able to pull and fill those rooms that aren't getting filled today. So, and if you're doing it at $50 and $100, it's a lot more than, the zero that you may or may not be getting. So there's a ton of opportunity. There's a ton of capacity for, improving the floor, improving the product. And if you do that, we're pretty certain that with just a reasonable marketing plan, which we think will be exceptional, but we just do the basics, we think that we can be pretty successful and expand the property.
You described this property as a diamond in the rough.
It is.
In your presentation, the Gaming Control Board. I absolutely affirm that. Someone who just adores rural Nevada, these are such important opportunities. It becomes, the epicenter for an entire region, not just an incorporated town. So what you bring, the talents, the highest level skill sets that you bring from literally around the planet with, the folks who are joining you in this adventure and putting it in little Jackpot. Now, it is exciting. Economic development, we're an old hat, but one of the great, is you try to recruit potential employees from Twin Falls, et cetera. Millennium Scholarship is something that Nevada has. Kids who do well in high school and continue education here, it's $10,000 scholarship, no taxes. So, those are, you're recruiting a family with 2 kids, that's 20 grand a college education they didn't have before they started this opportunity. So don't, speak to our friends at GoEd about these kind of opportunities.
Absolutely. And as we get on boots on the ground, and I'm there all the time, those are the conversations we like to have. I mean, look, it's meaningful. When you look around the country, and Nevada's no different, like inflation has hit everybody. So $20,000 a family trying to educate people with the cost of living and gas and so on and so forth. Those are all meaningful things that when you're doing the calculus, that's why people move to certain places, right? So we hope Jackpot's one of those, and we can attract some great employees.
But Elko's a special place, and good on you. So wish you best of luck. I know we need to speak to each of you individually, if you will, as we move forward. But I'm thrilled to support this application. Excited. It's a huge thing, not only for you and the risks that you're taking, but hopefully well thought out and ultimately very rewarding for you. But you can just really shine up a very special part of our state that not very many people get to see. Good on you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And to kind of add something there, I actually don't think there's much risk given the property, its location, and the work that they put in. I mean, the property's been impeccably taken care of, from painting to windows to replacing things in advance of end of life. So we're super excited. So we think it's actually a low risk opportunity. That's even better.
Thank you.
Sorry, these buttons are very hard to push. I didn't have any further questions. I enjoyed your presentation before the board and your exchange with Commissioner Korlicki. I mean, I think this is, these small properties in the rural areas are very important to our state. And I'm excited to see how you improve it, and hopefully, it'll be one of many. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Do Commissioners Silver or Marcantonis have anything you wish to add?
Just, thank you, Chair. It's just been a pleasure, as I'm just echoing what both commissioners have already said, so I don't have that much to add because so much was mentioned in your presentations to both the board and here at the commission, from things like Chair Hendricks asking you, well, where are you going to live when you're there, and you're going to live on property, it sounds like. It's just an amazing venture that you have put together here with and collaborated with your friends and colleagues from such really dynamic and different areas. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you modernize this property. And like I said, most of my questions have been answered through the presentation. So I'm just thrilled and happy to support everything you're doing here. It's amazing. It really is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marcantonis?
I echo those thoughts. The second time today we used the word, or at least I do, inspirational. You guys made quite a team, and wish you the very best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I appreciate the thorough conversation that we've had, and I don't have anything additional. So Ms. Gaynor, you're muted.
There we go. Would you like Dana Leibovitz to come up so you can ask him any questions you may have?
Sure. Did anyone have any other questions related to individual yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, I just was wondering when we were, Mr. Leibovitz, you have such a incredible background, with surveillance. And again, I enjoyed the presentation at the board as well. I just wanted to maybe ask you, I know you're going to be staying there on property to review what's needed as far as surveillance, but I assume you've already been out there, and offhand, what kinds of things will you be doing, or what are your plans to modernize the surveillance system up there, since we heard from Mr. Good that it's pretty old. It's been, this is a very old property. What types of things, just looking at it now, do you think you're going to be doing as far as plans?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. The system itself is not that old, and I believe it's been audited by the state yearly. I haven't really dug into the actual system itself, but just looked at it and made sure that the recording and retention was correct. Do need to dig in, make sure the camera coverage is correct, and the cameras are as modern as they can be, whereas that we can make them. There's probably more training work that needs to be done with the people that operate the surveillance system more than the actual surveillance system itself. That would be probably my biggest concern or biggest thing I would want to address right away.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioners in the north?
Thank you for being here, Mr. Leibovitz. So your background is you're the surveillance.
I started out in
expert.
surveillance. I've been in operations for the last 20 years.
How do you see your role in this property? I mean, how much time you're going to spend there?
My plan is not as much as my partner Christian, but probably up to 2 weeks a month starting out, then tapering off after that.
And you were going to continue your current position, right? And then just use
moment, yes.
PTO
Yes.
in order to,
That's correct.
be away to attend to this property.
Yes.
Perfect.
My current job has been has been helping, and they're very supportive of
Yeah.
this opportunity, so.
Yeah, that's terrific. And as far as housing, obviously, I assume you're going to stay on property also when you're
Yes,
when you're
that's correct.
traveling to do work there.
That's correct.
Right. I didn't have anything else. Again, I mean, I think this is an exciting opportunity for both of you and your other investors. And, you know, it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of payoff too.
It's a lot of work and it'll be a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leibowitz, for being with us today. Again, I'll repeat myself a little bit. I just love how you all complement one another, including your investors, and I see them cheerleading you on. I don't think we all, the Gaming Control Board took care of them because of the amount of ownership they have, but Mr. Mostats, Metabalmi, and Palmieri, just again, how you will bring that portfolio of skill together in little old jackpot. It's just fun.
We like to think of it as kind of the dream team. So
this is a Netflix movie waiting to happen. Your story, you know, I personally love your world story. I mean, from Norwegian Cruise Lines.
I've seen a lot.
You were in Hong Kong and you worked for Star Cruises. Is that the Star Ferry?
No, that's it was actually owned by the Genting Group.
Okay.
Resorts World. So that's the company. Star Ferry.
I saw that. I love that. That validates being there. You take the Star Ferry back and forth between Kowloon and Hong Kong.
We were
That's
docked
not
right
you.
next to the Star Ferry. So I was on it many times, but no, that was a different app.
No, I have no questions, just a further questions, just a ton of enthusiasm for what you're doing. And I can't wait to see the early reports in a year from now, 5 years from now, but it's a great story. Take a lot of notes.
Thank you.
Fully support your application.
Thank you, Commissioner Marcantonis. I don't recall if you had the opportunity yet to make any questions or comments. I don't think you did.
No further
Back and
questions
forth.
from me. Thank you, Chair.
I don't have any additional questions or comments. I know we have our 3 minority equity interest members here. In case we had any questions or comments, I don't. And I think that the presentation for the board and the materials and the answers to the questions today and Mr. Good's very thorough kind of discussion of the plans for the future were very helpful. So at this time, unless somebody has any additional questions or comments from my colleagues, I would ask if anyone has a motion.
Chair, at this time, I would move for the approval of non-restricted item number 5 as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right, it appears there are none opposed. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate it very much and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can we take a minute or 3?
Sure. This time we'll take a short comfort break. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes.
And I didn't want to write them off.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
do we have our court reporter back?
You do. I'm right here. Thank you.
Okay,
for that
perfect.
break.
I'm sorry I can't see or know. All right. Then if we are ready to reconvene at this time, I believe we are on non-restricted number 6. Madam Secretary, if you could read that into the record.
Non-restricted number 6 are the applications of Peter McHugh for finding of suitability as a key executive and for licensure as a key employee as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Michael Alonso, and I'm here on behalf of Truckee Gaming LLC. With me today, it's my pleasure to introduce Peter McHugh. Peter is the Chief Operating Officer at Truckee Gaming LLC, which is a registered holding company. He's also the Chief Operating Officer, Executive Vice President, and key employee for Plantation Investments LLC, which does business as Rail City Casino and Sparks. With us today also is Ference Zoni, who he's here to support Pete's application. Ference, as you all know, is the sole member of Truckee Gaming LLC, Chief Executive Officer and a member of the Board of Manager, longtime gaming executive in the state of Nevada. And also it's my pleasure to introduce Bill McHugh, who is Pete's father, and he's here like he was at the board meeting to support his son. Bill had a very long career in the gaming industry and was licensed several times by the commission. And with that, Chair, we're happy to go through a presentation or answer questions.
Well, we would love your client to introduce himself. That would be great. We're so pleased to have him before us.
Okay, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Pete McHugh.
Great. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. My name is Pete McHugh. I'm the COO of Truckee Gaming. I've had the honor and privilege of reporting directly to Ference Zoni for the last 10 years at Truckee Gaming. We've had the privilege of going through many of acquisitions since my time at Truckee Gaming, one being the sale of the Sands Regency to Jacobs Entertainment, which is now J Resort, where we then focus more of our attention on the local economies of casinos, where we purchased the 3 Pioneer Crossing casinos in 2017. From there, we purchased Club Fortune Casino in Henderson, Nevada in 2019. And just recently, we acquired 4 unrestricted licenses in Rail City Casino in Sparks, Nevada, Silverado Casino in Fernley, Nevada, Silver Strike Casino in Silver Springs, Nevada, and Carson Plains Casino in Dayton, Nevada. This brings our total unrestricted licenses to 10, and where we also operate 2 restricted licenses at C-Store locations at the previous locations. I've been in the gaming industry for 18 years. I've been married for 11 years and a proud father of 3. I'm happy to report from all the acquisitions from last year. All properties have had a good year in revenue growth over the prior years. So with that, I'll turn that over to the commission for any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. As we've been doing, I'm going to ask my colleagues, Commissioner Krolicki or Commissioner Solis-Rainey, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. McHugh, welcome. Absolutely delighted to watch your presentation to the Gaming Control Board. It's in your bones. You've got to be coming in front of us to get a license with your dad's sister, and I think your sister also is a licensee and very active. There's a lot of pressure on you, but people who can hang out with Mr. Zoni for 10 years, you know, they've shown a lot of mettle to be approved. Now, I say that teasingly. I see Mr. Zoni here. Want to appreciate, we've talked about some public service. We had public forum earlier today, but Ference Zoni, you were the vice chairman of the Nevada Commission on Tourism for many years. You put up with this chairman for a while, but we made Nevada a better place. But I just appreciate you, Mr. Zoni, and all these things that you've done for Nevada, the jobs you've created, but the public service you very quietly delivered for a lot of years. I think you were one of the longest serving commissioners on tourism. So thank you for that. But Mr. McHugh, I love the family story. It is in your DNA. This is your destiny. You were dealing poker, I believe, at Rail City when you were hopefully of age, but you want to talk about some of those early days and growing up in a gaming family and where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Born and raised around gaming. I watched my father be around gaming and then be heavily involved in the sportsbook industry. So a lot of the early stories would be, watching my dad sweat it out on a Monday night football game. But
A different way to watch a game, isn't it?
absolutely. No, but it's been great. I went to the College of University of Oregon and went back to Rail City Casino, moved back here after college and started dealing poker and blackjack at the Rail City. At that time, kind of was one of the rare college educated people in the position I was, so was able to grow within that organization at Rail City for 6 years, and then stay with the company, moving to Gold Ranch Casino in Verdi, and actually moving back to Rail City in a higher role in the director of slot operations. So from there, I went to Baldini's Casino. I was there for about 14 months with the GM. When he left, he brought me over as the director of slots and marketing because I can do both areas at that time. And that's right at that time is when Ferenzoni started Truckee Gaming in 2013. So I always had an eye for Truckee, with the ability to look for some opportunity to move over with Ferenzoni at any time possible. So in April of 14, I had the opportunity to meet with him and become his assistant general manager at the Sands at the time.
Excellent. Well, we've had other applications today of folk who started, the hard way and at the very beginning and dealing cards or being porters at hotels, those kind of things. So again, this is just one of those great stories. You're very fortunate to have your father and people like Ferenc being mentors to you, but you know what? They're awfully lucky to have you too. And I think it's a great full cycle story. I'm thrilled to support your application. And Mr. Alonso doesn't have to work hard today. He just gets to stand next to you and support. But I'm delighted to support your application today. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And, as Commissioner Korlicki stated, I think you're incredibly lucky to be able to come before for your first licensing with your father here to support you. I mean, that's huge. And that's something that may not seem as significant today, but looking back on it, I think it'll be a great milestone for you. I didn't have any concerns regarding your background. I was a little bit curious on just how involved you are with these other ventures that you've acquired recently. Do you have to go to the other properties to Club Fortune and these other smaller properties?
Yep, absolutely. So prior to the 4 acquisitions last year, normal routine was go to Club Fortune every other week for 2 days. And then when I'm not in Club Fortune, I do 2 to 3 days of travel every week with 2 office days. So I will hit every property every week on non-travel Club Fortune days. Current new structure. Fortunately, the new acquisitions are right in the homestead, is what we call the lap, going to Fernley, Silver Springs, and Dayton. So you can hit 7 of our properties very routinely in one day and be able to meet with the key executives there and go over the business decisions. And then we actually moved our corporate headquarters to Rail City. So all of our corporate infrastructure is actually based at the Rail City operation, where that's why I can oversee day-to-day operations there and work with the team more closely.
Great.
And then go to Club Fortune now every month for 2 days.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I'm sure that those properties have great management in place that, probably don't need you there every week, but having that presence, I know, means a lot from having worked in the industry. I mean, the employees really look forward and enjoyed seeing, Mr. Boyd come up and just look around the operations and see what was going on.
Yeah,
So
we feel face-to-face is very important.
it is. Well, thank you for being here and congratulations on this milestone and on coming back to Nevada. I'm glad that you did so after college. I mean, so many of our young adults leave and don't come back. And I always appreciate the fact when ones go away for, their education, but can come back and contribute to their home state. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sir, before I'll echo the comments of my colleagues before I open it up for any comments by Commissioner Silver or Marcantonis. Just so pleased to have you here and I'm in support of your application. Commissioner Silver.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for being here. It's just been wonderful to listen to your presentation, both at the board and here at the commission. And it's amazing how you've just worked your way up from, a dealer to floor person, shift boss. It's just really an incredible story and a testament to, all your hard work. And so I'm more than happy to support your application, and I'm thrilled. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marcantonis.
As am I, Chair. Thank you for being in front of us. Congratulations with the amazing family story. And of course, if your father, if Mr. McHugh Senior has any tips, I assume you or he are supporting your alma mater. Are they not ranked #1 in the nation right now in the CFP?
They are, but he would disagree.
Okay, thank you. That would be classed as a pro bono tip. Thank you. Have a great day and congratulations. We'll be supporting you.
Right, at this time, if there's no other questions or comments by my colleagues, would it appear proper form for a motion?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Please go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And it appears there are none opposed. Thank you very much for your
Thank
appearance
you.
today. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 7.
Non-restricted number 7 is the application of Aisha Molino for licensure as a key executive at Aria Resort and Casino, LLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Morning.
Commissioners, and Madam Secretary. For the record, Scott Scherer, Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, appearing today on behalf of Aisha Molino. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for continuing us from the November 4th meeting to accommodate Ms. Molino's travel schedule, and thank you for allowing us to appear by Zoom today to accommodate my travel schedules. I just returned into Las Vegas from overseas last night and didn't look forward to getting on a plane again early this morning, but sounds like I wouldn't have been able to make it even if I had tried. So thank you for that. Also want to thank Senior Agent Ashlyn Burke for her professionalism and courtesy and communicativeness throughout this process. We appreciate her. And with that, I'd like to turn over to Ms. Molino for her to provide a brief introduction of her brief summary of her background.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a quick disclosure to make if I might. Mr. Scherer jumped on before I could get in here. I wish to disclose that Mr. Scherer has previously served as my personal attorney in various matters, but I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by this relationship. I therefore intend to fully participate in the consideration of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Aisha Molino. I serve as President and Chief Operating Officer of Aria Resort and Vidara Hotel and Spa. I'm also the Chief Public Affairs Officer for MGM Resorts International. I started in my position with Aria and Vidara nearly a year ago today and have been with the company for nearly 8 years now. Before joining MGM Resorts, I spent most of my career working in the federal government, most recently in the United States Senate, where I spent nearly a decade. While I was in the Senate, I worked for the Senate Finance Committee and most recently for Senator Harry Reid when he served as the majority leader and then the Democratic leader. I served as his chief counsel, and in that capacity, I handled gaming policy issues for him. And that is how I first became introduced to the industry and to the company. When joining MGM, I first served in a government affairs capacity and slowly expanded my role until the time came for me to take on this position. I'm very grateful to the company for giving me the opportunity, grateful to you all for giving me the opportunity to appear before you today, and grateful to Agent Burke for all of her cooperation and help throughout this process. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for appearing before us, answering any questions we might have in the presentation. And at this time, I'll ask my colleagues, Commissioner Solis-Rainey and Krolicki, questions, comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Molino. A pleasure to see you, and we're delighted to accommodate logistics and you accommodating us. I'm sorry we made it upside down, but we get you this month. Impeccable record. I would love to hear more about your time on Capitol Hill. It's extraordinary opportunity you had in Senate Finance and certainly with Senator Reed's office. Would you care to elaborate on that a little bit and in your transition into Nevada and with the MGM family?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I spent several years working for Senator Reed, and like I mentioned, I handled gaming policy for him. As a result, I was very fortunate to work not just with MGM, but with gaming interests across the state. I was also very fortunate to spend a fair bit of time in the state working on broader Nevada interests as well. And it really was a great privilege. This is, the state, the economic development engine that gaming is for the state, and the contribution that we're able to make, not just to the state, but to the broader Nevada community and the employees here was always a great point of pride for him and has been a great point of pride for the company and for me personally. Because I handled gaming policy, I was exposed to various aspects of gaming law, regulation, compliance matters. And when I started with MGM, I really was able to use that background to understand the broader dynamics of the industry, as well as the key policy priorities that were important to the company and to the industry, and in many cases to the state of Nevada as well. And over the course of, as I mentioned, over the course of my time with the company, that transitioned into increasingly broader roles where I was exposed not just to the policy to important policy issues, but also to key operational issues. And that base of experience grew over time until I adopted this role.
I think that's a great story in transition. Were you in Senator Reed's Senate office or leadership office?
I was in the leadership office.
Good. And on the personal side, I see that your husband is in the political consulting business. Was he able to transition back to Nevada, or how did that work?
Yes, he has been, we're very fortunate in that his company has been very supportive of this move. And so we are proud Nevadans.
Good on you. And then maybe a final question. I know you're in front of us for your responsibilities at ARIA, but how does that integrate with your public affairs role for MGM wide? It's an interesting portfolio to represent MGM International Corporate plus a property, but how does that blend together?
In a couple of different ways. I'm from a workload perspective, I'm very lucky to have extremely strong and experienced teams, both here at ARIA and Vdara, as well as in the public affairs function. And so my role, particularly with public affairs, is primarily oversight of the government affairs, corporate communications, and public affairs functions. But I have senior executives who fulfill each of those responsibilities on a day-to-day basis. And my office is here at ARIA, and I spend my work days and weekends to a great degree here at ARIA and Vdara on this campus. I think managing both roles has been a great privilege because I've been able to see things not just from the property perspective, but from the broader corporate perspective, and to really understand what the overall corporate strategy is, what the goals are, and how this campus fits in with that. And so I think that, in a lot of ways, having that corporate perspective has allowed me to sort of more efficiently execute certain initiatives on this campus to make sure that we really are pushing on and aligned with that broader objective.
Understood. And I think I read it, but I can't recall it. Do you report directly to Mr. Hornbuckle, or who do you report to?
I have two direct reports. On the ARIA side, I report to Corey Sanders, who is our Chief Operating Officer. And on the public affairs side, I report to John McManus, who is our General Counsel.
Awesome. Good. Those are my questions. I'm thrilled to support your application, and we're very fortunate to have you. I love the background you bring to your new responsibilities for MGM and into Las Vegas. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Ms. Molino, thank you for being before us. You have quite the workload. Your response to Commissioner Korlicki's questions answered some of mine. the biggest one is how you balanced, having that corporate role as well as the property operational role and, also two young children. But it sounds like, you have some other senior executives that facilitate that process for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't have anything further. I mean, your background is impeccable. You are very qualified for the position. And I always appreciate seeing, more female executives in place. So in that regard, I'm really proud to have you before us. I don't have anything further, but I'm in support of your application and look forward to a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Commissioner Silver Marcantonis.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations on this first application of suitability. And I mean, you've got an impressive resume, high levels of clearance, obviously, from your employment. And it's just a pleasure to support you in this application. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Commissioner Marcantonis.
I echo everyone's sentiments, Ms. Molino. Excellent background. Congratulations on your appointment. I don't often see representatives from Nevada on the American Hotel and Lodging Association board. Are you still on that board?
Yes, sir.
Well, congratulations. And those associations, including the Nevada Resort Association, are so important to our industry. Thank you for giving up your time and giving back to the industry. I'll be very happy to support your application today.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Same here, Ms. Molina. It's a pleasure to have you here today, and we appreciate you being before us to answer the questions. And at this time, I believe it's in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval for non-restricted item number 7, as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by Nevada's Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, I believe that brings us to restricted items held up for discussion. And if you would please read in restricted number 1.
Restricted number 1 is the application of Dollywall Enterprises 3, Inc., doing business as DI Arco AMPM for a restricted gaming license, and the application of Gurpreet Singh for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato, enrolled agent. With me today is Mr. Singh, the applicant. Before you today is review of a limited license, a 2-year limited license. There was a condition on the license to attend anger management class in which Mr. Singh did that. Has been no further incidents since the time of the last review, and we're here requesting your approval of his application.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask my colleagues in Carson City, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Singh. Welcome to our commission meeting. The conversation you had with the Gaming Control Board was extensive, and I appreciate the conversation and specifically around the anger management classes. You know, I'm a person who likes to procrastinate, and I love deadlines. But I know we talked about you finishing those classes, you know, at nick in time. So I just want to emphasize how important those things are. I appreciate your answers regarding training of staff for, you know, encounters and how to de-escalate and how not to follow people out the door. I mean, again, you were very candid, and I think you're well sensitized to the reasons why you have the 2-year approval and why you're back in front of us today. But given the success of the past few years and where you are, and you've certainly complied with this period and the requests and the conditions, I fully intend to support your application today. Thank you.
I didn't have any additional questions. I do appreciate the applicant being here to respond to any questions and also I appreciate him completing the seminar as requested, and don't have anything further. I'm happy to support the application.
Commissioner Silver?
Thank you. Thank you for coming here today. And, we listened obviously to the extensive discussions with the board, and there's tons of material from the last 2 years and all the prior police contact. And before I became a commissioner in April, I was a retired Supreme Court justice, and I got to sit into the lower courts. And I'm certainly aware from all of my experience as a judge of 20 years that the areas in which in which your two stores are at, I think Chair Hendricks called them challenging, and that would be an understatement. I actually sympathized with you because I certainly know firsthand from the courtroom the challenges of being in an area where there is shoplifting like that, and drunks and people who are mentally ill and everything else that also become violent with your store employees. So I really appreciated the talk that you gave with the board about how you have implemented training and how you continue to train your employees, because none of it is worth the people that are acting up, these customers. They're just not worth not only your gaming license, but just what we see is it can really escalate into a really bad situation, as homicides and everything at these convenience stores. So, I appreciate you staying strong in these tough communities, areas. And I did appreciate your representations as far as how you wanted to make your family proud. And I fully support your application today. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marcantonis?
Yes, probably not easy being in front of us today. I'm certain that you had a few nerves about it, but you've gone through that class. And I just, as Commissioner Silver pointed out, when listening at the Gaming Control Board, how you have implemented the training and how you've implemented that training with your team members made a big impact on me. So our job as regulators is not to see people fail. We want people to succeed. And so it's good when we see somebody like you who takes the advice, for lack of a better word, that we give them in direction, grasp it with both hands, and go forward in the future. So I'll have no hesitation in supporting you today, Mr. Singh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll echo the comments of my fellow commissioners. What I would say is, setting aside, the gaming license issues, the benefit to training employees in an area like this with a business like this, at some point you can't get coverage, you can't get insurance coverage, something happens, and then your business is over. Never mind your gaming license, right? So important to keep up with that training in a business like this. I mean, you have that going on in areas that aren't as challenging as yours, just based upon the litigation experience up here before, well, at least some of us have seen the litigation and liability that can result from not training employees, not having policies and procedures, not having standards. Something happens, and then it can devastate your business. So I echo the comments of everyone. I intend to support your application. Thank you for going to the class, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
So at this time, I would ask if one of my colleagues has a motion.
Certainly, Madam Chair. I move for approval for non-restricted item number 7, as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by Nevada's Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in.
I think it's restricted 1.
Did I say?
I think he misspoke and said non-restricted 7 in the motion, but it's.
Oh, I didn't.
You are correct, Commissioner. Thank you for that correction.
No
Commissioner Solis Rainey, I can repeat it, Chair.
Yes.
Okay, so Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 1, as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by Nevada's Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on the motion for restricted item number 1? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Special Agent Peters for all his work on this application, and I wish everybody a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too. Madam Secretary, that brings us to restricted items 2, 3, and 4 that will be read into the record and addressed by the commission together.
Restricted number 2 is the application of Golden RR Eastern 3 LLC doing business as PT's Ranch for a restricted gaming license, and the application of Golden Tavern Group LLC for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 3 is the application of Golden PT's Pub MLK 18 LLC doing business as PT's Pub for a restricted gaming license, and the application of Golden Tavern Group LLC for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 4 is the application of Golden PT's Pub Desert Inn 42 LLC doing business as PT's Pub for a restricted gaming license, and the application of Golden Tavern Group LLC for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Michael Alonso. I'm here on behalf of Golden Entertainment. Phyllis Gilland is down with you today, participating via video. Phyllis, as you all know, is Senior Vice President, General Counsel, Secretary, and Chief Compliance Officer for Golden Entertainment. Items 2 through 4 and actually 5 and 6 as well, and I know you're going to get to those, but those are all really just additional post-closing cleanup of matters related to the sale of the slot route business to J&J Ventures, who was on your agenda earlier today. And for the most part, the changes are just to kind of line up the economics of the locations and align them with other Golden Tavern operations, depending on whether they're in the north or the south. And that's the sort of the dividing line. If you look at items 5 and 6 that we're going to get to, those are the reverse of what we're doing with items 2 through 4. So with that, I'm happy to go through the presentation and go location by location, or I can stand here and answer commissioners' questions.
Would any commissioner like a location by location summary?
I do not.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
I don't think that.
I'll open it. We'll open it up for questions. Commissioners Krolicki or Solis Rainey.
I also didn't have any questions. I thought it was pretty straightforward. Thank you.
And thank you. And Mr. Alonso, always a pleasure. It was straightforward. Certainly understand the transaction with J&J, causes these things to come. So this is just cleanup, but everyone did a fine job. I appreciate the Gaming Control Board in this. I also appreciated the conversation you all had and Ms. Gillen had with Chair Hendrick about the signage issue. If there is a global solution on how best to do that, I think he invited the industry to have that conversation. But that was, you spoke about that at great length. So certainly understand it. It's critically important. There needs to be a good way to do this. But if I would encourage that conversation to happen if it's truly out there. But I fully support and appreciate why you're in front of us today.
Thank you, Commissioner Corley.
Commissioners Silver or Marcantonis?
I have no further questions, Chair.
Nor do I. Thank you. Right. I also don't have any questions. At this time, I guess it would be right for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted items number 2, 3, and 4 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We thank Heather Partee as well. Agent Partee did a great job with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm getting there. Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted 5 and 6 together?
Restricted number 5 is the application of Golden Sierra Gold R1 LLC for licensure to receive a percentage of game revenue from Golden Route Operations LLC doing business as Golden Route Operations doing business at Sierra Gold. It is also the application of Golden Tavern Group LLC for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 6 is the application of Golden Sierra Junction R2 LLC for licensure to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from Golden Route Operations LLC, doing business as Golden Route Operations, doing business at Sierra Junction. It is also the application of Golden Tavern Group LLC for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon,
Don't
Chair
worry,
Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Michael Alonso, and I'm here on behalf of Golden Entertainment. Hopefully Phyllis is still down there in front of
No.
you.
She just had to stretch her legs. She's here.
Items 5 and 6 are kind of the reverse of what we did with items 2 through 4. I'm happy to discuss those items or stand here and answer questions.
Okay, I'm going to start with my colleagues in Carson. Any questions or comments?
Excuse me, I don't have either questions or comments. Again, I think it's straightforward and I understand it.
It is indeed straightforward. I'm fully supportive of the application.
Commissioner Marcantonis and Silver.
Nothing further since viewing the Gaming Control Board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. No further questions.
All right, at this time, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted items number 5 and 6 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Madam Secretary, that brings us to restricted number 7. If you could read that into the record, please.
Restricted number 7 is the application of Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc., doing business as Dottie's number 220 for a restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon. Oh, can you turn on your mic? There you
I
go.
apologize. Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, board members in attendance. For the record, my name is Cannon Smith, and I'm General Counsel for Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. I'm before you today on restricted item number 7, which is NRSI's application for Dottie's number 220. NRSI would like to thank Agent Mallory Rabold for all of her work on this application, and I'm happy to do my best answering any questions that the Commission might have.
Commissioner Solis Rainey and Commissioner Kwilicki, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. All straightforward. Just for the record, though, can we confirm that Worcester High School and Calvary Baptist Church remained silent in response to this application?
That is correct.
All right. I have no issue here. Let me just make sure. I did appreciate the conversation about how this Dottie's got to be across the street from an existing Dottie's. Sometimes people come forward with the opportunity to Dottie's to do these things, but that I did find that business approach interesting, but certainly the answer is satisfying. I have no issue or qualm with this application and fully support.
Thank you.
I also don't have any questions regarding the application. I am satisfied that the location is suitable for gaming despite its proximity to the high school and the church, given the existence of other gaming, in even closer proximity, the fact that they've had an opportunity to speak up and have not. And, both during the licensing at the county level and then also in response to the public notices that we've published. I did want to just say for the record that I do always appreciate when the applicant takes the time to affirmatively confirm with the businesses or the locations that they have no objection. That just makes it a little bit more straightforward and simple. But again, I certainly don't have any concerns with this one. It's fine. It's a very busy street and there's a lot going on there. So I'm satisfied with it and happy to support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Commissioner Silver or Marcantonis?
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I echo the comments of the other commissioners, and I also really appreciated the conversation with the Attorney General, who also piped in and was talking to Chairman Hendricks about Plum Lane being a major corridor, and as well. That was helpful for the record as well, with the high school being right across the street. So with that, I would support the application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm totally satisfied as well. Thank you, Chair.
All right, at this time, if there's no further comments or questions, it would appear it's in proper form for a motion.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. Please go ahead, Commissioner.
I apologize, I can't see you and I didn't want to just stall. I move for approval of restricted items number 7, as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? No. There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Madam Secretary, that brings us to restricted item number 8. If you could please read that into the record.
Restricted number 8 is the application of Funnies One Limited Partnership for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of KAJ Management LLC for registration as a holding company and for licensure as a limited partner. You also have the applications of Denise Krotz and Jody Krotz for finding of suitability as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval, and I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you, Chair. I do have a disclosure to make on this matter. I have known the applicants and their family for many years, as our children have been close friends, and the applicants live in my neighborhood. However, this personal relationship in no way relates to the matter before us, nor do I believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by this, as I have not seen the applicants in many years, nor do I have any commitment to them in a private capacity other than to wish them well in their endeavors. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato. Enrolled agent with me today is Mr. and Mrs. Krotz, and also with us today is Mrs. Funston. She is the trustee of the Funston Gaming Trust. And with your permission, I will give just a brief background, and then we'll be here to answer any questions you may have.
Please.
So this is a transfer of interest application in which the limited partner of the gaming licensee is requesting to transfer its 50% interest to KAJ Management LLC, which is owned 100% by Mr. and Mrs. Krotz. Mr. and Mrs. Krotz are also the owners of the general partner, and the 50% is coming from the trustee of the trust, which is the mother of Mrs. Krotz. And with that, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I'll start in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Donato, for the presentation. Totally understand the reasons for this, and it's always difficult when you have a passing that generates the need to do these things, but certainly the desire to move beyond and hand over to the children, it's applications well understood and it's appropriate, and I support.
I don't have anything further to add. I'm satisfied with the materials that we had in front of us, and also just want to wish the family well. Thank you.
Commissioner Silver or Marcantonis?
I ditto Commissioner Solis Rainey. Thank you for all being here today. We appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
No, I just want to thank you for coming here today, and I echo the comments of my fellow commissioners, so thank you.
Okay. Well, it appears that no one has any significant questions, so at this time, it's ripe for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 8 as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Mr. Cole Rupert, and as recommended by Nevada's Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And it appears there are none opposed. All right, thank you. And
Thank you.
appreciate
I'd like
your
to thank
patience today.
Senior Agent Lombardo for all his work on this application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in the next agenda item?
You have 3 regulation agenda items regarding proposed amendments to Nevada Gaming Commission Regulations 5, 16, and 22 as noted on the agenda.
Okay, so let's start with, who's going first for our DAGs, senior DAG? We have, who's on Regulation 5? Me, okay. Before we begin to hear from you, I just have a question, like a preliminary question that I need to address. And that is, my review of all of these materials suggests to me very clearly that there is zero interest in the outcome of this event by the Department of Public Safety. And in fact, the Department of Public Safety is simply not going to do background investigations and run CGIS and NCIC and reports, which necessitated this event in the first place, but they have no interest in the outcome of this matter. Would you disagree with me?
I'm going to defer to Chief Torgerson as she has been in contact with the Department of Public Safety.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be here before you. In working with our partners at Nevada Department of Public Safety, I feel that, they are somewhat removed in this issue because they have to audit us as well. And with that being said, I think that there's a concern on their part. They were pretty forthcoming with, the reasons for the change of the interpretation. And I think that they support us in coming up with a solution. They want to see that for public safety throughout the valley and to support our public safety professionals, of course. But I think that, they have been somewhat removed from this because it is in fact our problem to adhere to federal guidelines, and we've come up with a solution.
Okay, the reason I ask is because my father is the director of the Department of Public Safety for the state of Nevada. I see zero pecuniary interest by the Department of Public Safety, by him or by me, or any other interest that they could have other than the one that you just stated. And so because there's no impact, I think, in the independence and judgment of a reasonable person, and that would be affected by this relationship. I'm just making the disclosure in abundance of caution, but I have every intention to participate in the discussion and vote on this matter. So with that said.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Nona Lawrence with the Attorney General's Office. Before you today are proposed amendments to Regulation 5.102 for your consideration and possible adoption. They were developed with input from Enforcement Division Chief Torgerson, Special Agent Adams, and requested by the Board Chair. The changes are contained in a draft dated September 11th, 2024, and posted to the Board website on September 20th, 2024. Preliminarily, before getting into the substantive changes, there is a typographical error that was brought to our attention, and thank you to the Commissioner who found that. It's on page 2 of the draft. It's about halfway down the page. The indented paragraph that starts with the number 4 in parentheses and in brackets. That number should be a 6 and not a 4, and needs to be changed should the Commission choose to adopt it.
So in the event there is a motion, that needs to be recognized in the motion.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The proposed amendments in the draft before you generally align with changes made by the Department of Public Safety affecting armed security personnel, gaming employee registrations. Chair, if you'd like, I will outline the proposed amendments.
Thank you.
Amendments were made in 2 phases. The first phase before the workshop on May 23rd, 2024, and the second phase after. I'll go through them sequentially. First, there are proposed changes to the types of credentials that will be acceptable for interim armed security casino personnel applications. Previously, the Nevada Gaming Control Board agents were allowed to access criminal history and arrest reports through Criminal Justice Information Services, commonly known as CJIS, in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety. To this end, GCB would accept currently registered armed security personnel seeking renewal as temporarily registered while they completed updated information. Earlier this year, the Department of Public Safety clarified that the criminal records could not be accessed for employment purposes. Because agents are now unable to access the necessary criminal records, those categories related to CJIS information were eliminated as suitable sources to allow for temporary registration. Similarly, the Nevada Private Investigators Licensing Board was also previously able to obtain criminal records. The Department of Public Safety also terminated this ability. Because of this, the category of applicants with a current registered work card from the Private Investigators Licensing Board, commonly known as a guard card, was eliminated as a suitable category for temporary registration. Two other categories were also eliminated. One, a presently registered gaming employee in an armed security personnel position with another licensee. And two, is renewing a registration as a gaming employee in an armed security personnel position. This is also because complete criminal background checks are no longer ascertainable by GCB for this purpose. Following these changes, there were only 3 remaining categories that were suitable for temporary registration during the period that GCB obtains updated information. Those categories were 1, an applicant that holds a current concealed weapon permit issued by a political subdivision of the state of Nevada. 2, an applicant presently employed as an active law enforcement officer. And 3, an applicant who is a retired law enforcement officer with a current Law Enforcement Officers Safety Act card. The second area of proposed changes was to delete the language regarding the time period for GCB to expedite the registration decision. Previously, the board would attempt to notify an applicant within 15 days of a completed application submission. This timeline was overly ambitious, and with the number of people applying for gaming registrations increasing exponentially, it was simply no longer feasible. Those changes were presented at the GCB workshop on May 23rd, 2024. Following the workshop, there was no public comment related to the amendment on the registration timeline. However, the industry had significant concerns regarding the reduction in temporary registration categories. Chief Torgerson, Nevada Resorts Association President Virginia Valentine, and other industry professionals worked together on additional categories acceptable to the board and to the industry. Numerous options were explored. Chief Torgerson had extensive discussions with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department regarding applications for concealed carry permits. In those discussions, it was discovered that Metro would run checks before issuing an applicant a receipt for a CCW application. Chief Torgerson determined these checks were equivalent to the background check that board agents previously obtained from CJIS. Subsequently, 2 additional categories for temporary registration were added to the 3 that remained after the initial workshop. Those 2 categories were number 4, a new applicant that submits a receipt evidencing they have applied for a CCW with a political subdivision of the state of Nevada, and category 5, a gaming employee renewal applicant showing the same receipt. In other words, an applicant or renewing employee may receive temporary registration once they have applied for their CCW and are in the system for those background checks. Language was also added regarding the licensee's responsibility to submit documentation and updates to the board. Finally, parameters were added for disqualification once the credential expired, was suspended, revoked, or denied. These additional changes were discussed at the GCB meeting on September 11th, 2024. All of those changes appear in the draft you have before you today. The board asked the commission to adopt the proposed amendments presented in the draft dated September 11th, 2024 to become effective upon adoption. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have. I also have Chief Torgerson here and Special Agent Adams that can answer any questions or provide any clarification.
We'll start in Carson City. Any questions or comments?
I'm sorry, I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you.
We're having trouble pushing our
Really
buttons. Sorry for the delay. Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate all the effort the Attorney General's office has put into this. Appreciate the presentation and working with Chief Torgerson. I don't know if Nevada Resort Association is represented there today in your room or Virginia Valentine, but just confirming that in working with them on this solution that again makes some sense, makes great sense. But if just to affirm that the Nevada Resort Association is in full support of this amendment to the regulation. Can you confirm?
My intention was to ask for any public comments after, if you had any questions for our deputy AG or our staff that for the board, from the board here today first, and then I was going to do that. So,
and so
if you'd like me to just cut right to that, I guess I could do it. If nobody has any questions for the three that are sitting before us.
My question was, is NRA fully supportive? I saw some of the paper trail. I know they were concerned about some delays, but hopefully they are fully supportive.
So let's just ask if the three before us, if we have any questions for them before we move to public comment and Ms. Valentine. Any questions for council?
I have no questions for council.
Okay.
Until we hear from the others.
So I'm going to need one of you to vacate the microphone so that we can hear from the Resort Association on this matter. And by the way, do you mind if I go ahead and note that this is the public comment section on the proposed regulation amendment to Regulation 5.
Thank you and good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. My name is Virginia Valentine and I'm the president of the Nevada Resort Association, and I'm happy to be here today on this amendment to these regulations. I think you know that many resort security do come with backgrounds from law enforcement, but then many do not. And so this process of registration is critically important for our armed security guards. Public safety and tourism safety for our team members and our guests is still paramount importance to us. So we are beyond grateful to say that we really appreciate the work that Chief Torgerson, the AG's office, the Gaming Control Board members, reception to our concerns, and coming up with I think a pretty creative solution to addressing this issue so that registrations can continue to occur in a very timely manner. As you know, if somebody's taking positions, new registration expires, that delay can really affect our ability to properly staff resort security with armed security guards. So again, I have nothing to say except thank you very much. I'm very appreciative for this regulation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any?
I'm sorry, where's public comment?
Yeah. Does anyone else have any public comment they wish to make on behalf of themselves or any entity related to this proposed amendment? There being none, you were saying, Commissioner Kralicki.
I think I got my answer very clearly from Ms. Valentine, and always appreciate her efforts and her work. But this is an profoundly serious issue. You know, the rough and tumble of the world sometimes interacts with those we regulate, but appreciate the very thoughtful, innovative, time-consuming effort that has gone into this. So while we may not have any, or very few questions, and just, this item, this topic has been, I think, thoroughly thought out, and I just am grateful to the folks who've made this amendment to the regulation in front of us today. But again, I will fully support.
Okay, Commissioner Solis Rainey.
I don't have anything further, and I'm happy to make a motion if we're ready for one.
Commissioners Marcantonis or Silver.
I fully support, and I know that that's very important to all of the operators in our city. And I appreciate you being here today, Ms. Valentine, to add credence to that support as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment and thank everyone's hard work and able to collaborate to bring this to us, because having been on prior rules committees, it's not easy when everybody has different ideas coming in, and to bring it to this form just shows how much work. I mean, I read the transcripts and really appreciative of all the work that went into this. So thank you very much.
I'd simply say, as someone who was responsible for the Regional Justice Center's security for 4 of the longest years of my life, so hard to find qualified people to do this work, whether it's, in a full peace officer capacity or security, armed security, so hard, so challenging. And I think this really does affect a balance, and I applaud you all for working together with the industry. We have the rules, right? And then we have to rely to some degree on the industry itself to do the checks that they can do and the backgrounds that they can do on folks that they're looking to hire for such important positions that have such a impact on people they come in contact with. And it's really, to a great degree, a position of power, right? So in light of all of that context, I certainly support this, and I would ask Commissioner Solis Rainey to go ahead and make that motion she offered to make.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the proposed amendments to NGC Regulation 5.102 as presented in the draft dated September 11th, 2024, as recommended by the Gaming Control Board, with the following modification. In subsections 3A, sub 4, it's marked red line sub 4. That should be corrected to reflect that it's red line subsection 6. Is that adequate?
Yes. I'm telling you
And
that.
I'm sorry, and
nodding heads in front of me. That's why I'm saying it.
And that's to become effective upon adoption.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you. All right. Next we have, we're going to hear on the proposed amendments to Regulation 16.
Madam Secretary.
And if it's acceptable, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I apologize. If it's acceptable, I was going to have you present it, have any questions of you, and then call for public comment. That was the plan, if that's acceptable. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm here in regards to proposed changes to Regulation 16 that are contained in a draft dated June 7th of 2024. These proposed changes involve the definition of prescribed activity and requirements for beneficial owners of voting securities of registered PTCs. These changes have been the subject of 2 workshops held by the board, one on August 7th of 2024 and one more recent, one on May 23rd of 2024. I'm not aware of any public comments either received orally or in writing as a result of these workshops or subsequent to them. I'll hope that Madam Secretary confirms that. But at the board's August 7th workshop, the board did recommend these proposed changes that are before you today for your consideration and hopefully adoption. Madam Chair, I can go through these changes in a little bit more detail if you'd like, or just answer any questions that the commission may have.
Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions you have? Do you have any questions you have?
I think with the discussions and the materials we've received and the extensive dialogue, you know, I think it's pretty straightforward at this point. Again, not to diminish the efforts that have gone into this by not having questions, but I think the work is thorough, and I'm comfortable supporting as is.
I agree.
Commissioner Silver?
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so it would appear that we can go ahead and call for any public comment at this time. Does anyone present in Carson City wish to make any public comment on this proposed amended regulation?
I'm seeing none.
Anyone here? Thank you. Anyone here in Southern Nevada? No one here in Southern Nevada. Does anyone have a motion?
Madam Chair, just before that motion is made, I just want to request that this, if passed, be made effective upon adoption.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move to adopt the proposed amendments to NGC Regulation 16 as presented in the draft dated June 7th, 2024, as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board to become effective upon adoption.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And it
Thank you.
appears there are none opposed. Thank you. And that brings us to the proposed amendment to regulation number 22 as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am John McKellar with the Attorney General's Office. Before you today for your consideration and possible adoption are proposed changes to regulations 22.060, 22.115. The draft before you is dated August 7th, 2024. The board held a workshop on these proposed changes on May 23rd, 2024, and after considering the discussions from the workshop and some internal discussions with the Enforcement Division, recommended the proposed changes contained in the draft to you on August 7th, 2024. The main purpose of the draft before you today is to require reporting when a book accepts an ostensible wager on an event whose outcome has already been determined, and to clarify when approval from the board chair is necessary to rescind a wager. Both of these proposed changes flow from discussions with licensees regarding how to handle the occurrence of a book taking money for a wager on an event whose outcome has already been determined. The changes to Regulation 22.0603 would require reporting such instances to the board. The difference between the recommended draft and the draft considered at the workshop is that while immediate reporting is still required, 45 days is now allowed to provide a supplemental report with all of the details. The change to Regulation 22.115 clarifies that books do not need chair approval to recognize that an attempted wager is void if it is placed after the outcome of an event has already been determined. The draft of 22.115, which was considered at the workshop, would have allowed broader rescission without chair approval if a book's house rules provided for rescission in certain circumstances. However, the board's enforcement division reviews house rules and they must be approved by the board chair. Based on this, the enforcement division was concerned that it would be inundated with new and novel house rule proposals allowing rescission without board chair approval under a myriad of circumstances. To address this potential issue, the proposed changes to Regulation 22.115 have been limited to specify that board chair approval is not required to recognize an attempted wager placed after the outcome of an event has been determined is void. All other instances where a book would like a wager rescinded would remain unchanged. A book must request approval from the board chair to rescind such wagers. Limiting the proposed changes in this matter addresses the main industry concern regarding wagers placed after the outcome of an event has been determined and prevents the board from being inundated with new and novel House rule approval requests regarding rescission without board chair approval. All other rescission issues may still be addressed through the current process of a bookmaking or request for board chair approval of wager rescission. These other issues are not voluminous, totaling 10 rescission requests over the last 4.5 years. These changes may be made effective upon your adoption, and I ask you to adopt them as recommended to you by the board. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners Krolicki and Solus Rainey, do either one of you or both of you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senior Deputy Attorney General McKellar. Always appreciate your hard work and thoroughness. And my only question is really on, this is so commonsensical. Of course, we need to do this, but how do you do it? Especially in this with AI and being able to place bets rapidly. I think Chair Hendrick and some of the transcript talked about having faster internet than perhaps the sports book or wherever it is. But how do you confirm that the event has already occurred? I mean, you could, in theory, submit a bet with the same minute stamp as the event concluded, and how do they actually referee that?
This would still be subject to patron disputes. If a licensee said, no, this event has concluded, there's no wager, then this could be addressed through the patron dispute process. But I think in large part, we would rely on the licensees. If they're going to say this wager never occurred, it's void because the outcome was not uncertain, we would rely on the licensees to confirm that before saying the wager was void. And then if the patron disagreed, they would have an avenue of relief through the patron dispute process.
And I understand that. I think most of these, the delay will be sufficiently long that it would be clear. But again, and maybe there's not a good answer, but many sporting outcomes are determined in the final seconds of play. And if somehow I was able to make a wager in that lapse of, I know that the kick was good or bad, or, whatever the sport involves at the last second. I mean, is that even from a technology standpoint, something that's even feasible to occur, or if they have the timestamp by minute? I mean, how do you do that? But you understand what I'm saying.
I do, Commissioner Krolicki. I think rolling it back a little bit, though, most wagers have to be placed before the start of the event. There would be a period where the outcome's not determined in the middle of an event, which would not be recognized as void with these changes. And in that case, the licensee could ask for a rescission of that wager under the normal processes in Regulation 22.115 because they didn't close their wager when they should have, but the outcome was not determined when the wager was placed. But as far as wagers placed in the final seconds of an event with the event hanging on the outcome of an extra point or a field goal, that would just be in-game wagering, and I don't wish to make broad statements as to what in-game wagers the industry takes, and would defer that to Chief Torgerson, who's there. But I don't believe there's any in-game wagers on whether that are put out so quickly that you can wager on the outcome of the final kick for the determination of the outcome of an event.
I just hope, and I appreciate your answer. And again, it's such a hypothetical. I appreciate him pushing it to the extreme, but I don't partake, and nor have I. But there are in-game wagers, and if that extra point or penalty kick, whatever it happens to be, is the last act, it could change the outcome of the game. And if I could, again, with AI assistance now, can within, nanoseconds, place a wager potential. I don't know if that's even feasible, but that was my question. I'm sure greater minds and will figure this out should that become the case. But this certainly cures, 99.999% of these kind of activities, and it's commonsensical. Appreciate all the effort that's gone into it, and of course I support. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I believe I already indicated, I don't have any questions. And if it helps any Commissioner Kerlicki, in my experience, most of these issues they took a bet after the outcome was decided. It wasn't that close. It was usually something that they forgot to take off the board, and for whatever reason, the system still allowed them to take it. And the time went beyond a minute, it went into the seconds. So that could be different now, but that was my experience.
And I would supplement that with, with time zone changes and event changes. I think we're the biggest drivers of wagers being able to be taken after the conclusion of an event. You have something, I think the example I've heard recently was a CONCACAF football match. I almost called it soccer, where the event start time was changed and the licensee wasn't aware of it and their information service wasn't aware of it, but there were a few people who tried to place wagers on that game knowing the outcome of the game, and those money was taken on that, and this is what that would cure.
Thank you. Anybody here? Commissioner Marcantonis, Commissioner Silver, any questions or comments?
I don't have any additional questions. It's a complex subject, but I understand so far what has been explained. Thank you.
This time I would ask if there's anyone wishing to make public comment regarding the proposed amendment to Regulation 22 in Carson City. Is there anyone?
No, Madam Chair.
And okay, thank you. And here in Southern Nevada, is there anyone present that wishes to make public comment? There being no one here at this time, it would appear that this proposed amendment is ripe for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the proposed amendments to NGC Regulation 22 as presented in the draft dated August 7th, 2024, as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board, to become effective upon adoption.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda are the administrative reports. If we could start with Chair Hendrick.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners. For our next board meeting, we are scheduled for Wednesday, December 4th, and we're anticipating 14 non-restricted items and 12 restricted items, 1 new game and 1 patron appeal. So we're going to do non-restricted at 9 o'clock, and we hope to start restricted by 1:30. On behalf of everybody at the board, our plan is to have a lunch break for all the staff that will be in attendance that day. If that doesn't happen, we actually might start restricted at 1:45. So just giving everybody a heads up, but very, very full agenda for December. Thank you.
Will we see you in Boulder City?
Yes, we look forward to being in Boulder City with the commission next month.
Thank you.
That'll be the first, I think, in Nevada history that we've been in Boulder City for a commission meeting. So very much looking forward to it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about from our Attorney General today?
Nothing today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if we could close with our last agenda item, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
I'll first go to Carson City. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, please step forward. Anybody up there?
Madam Chair, we don't have anybody present that appears to want to make a public comment, but I did want to take an opportunity to personally thank all the members of the Attorney General's office and the industry that worked on these regulations, although I didn't have any questions about him because I spent a lot of time pouring through them and they had done such a fine job presenting them. I know a lot goes into it that we don't see, and I just didn't want my lack of questions to come across as not recognizing the hard work that you guys do. You all do a great job with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Here in here in Southern Nevada, there appears to be no one present to make public comment. I would simply like to thank the legislature for allowing us to use this beautiful new room with the incredible technology. I think the three of us here were really bowled over by it. I also want to thank our staff. I know that the fact that three of us got off a plane and came here, and you didn't expect us, and arrangements had to be made to get us set up, and we appreciate that. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. So thank you for that. And so at this time, that will close our public comment section. And we'll conclude the Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of November. We are adjourned.